I hit that button hard.
Man, what a cool movie.
I know, right?
I literally
I
just finished it like 2 minutes ago. It's and man, so it's all fresh. What an ending. Such a great
it's
ending.
pretty fucking great. Yeah, I like this movie a lot. From the minute the first snap zoom hit, like I said, I turned over to Nikki and I was like, Jamie's gonna love this one.
Oh, I do love those zooms. They just fill my heart with so much joy. Hello, everyone in the chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to continue the Disney arc today by talking about Sleeping Beauty from 1959. Hope you're all having a fine Sunday, ready to talk about a lovely and very cool little movie. I'm very excited to talk about it, as you might have just heard. If YouTube caught it, I literally just finished watching it, so it's all very fresh. And God, what an ending! Such a great ending. We already have a super chat before we even started. Wow. How generous. Daily Dose says, careful, guys. You keep covering kids' cartoons, and the YouTube AI won't think you're adults. Next week needs to cover something hardcore and adult.
All right, you know what? I have an idea for you, Daily Dose. Next week, we will cover the film debut of one Remy LaCroix of the LaCroix water fame. A classic actress. So we'll make sure we get hardcore and adult all in one go.
Wait.
Don't Google it.
Is she? Okay. Oh, all right. It took me way too long. I'm there. I'm hip. I get it.
You're with it. Yeah.
Topaz Dude says, hello all, what have we watched recently? Yeah, so before we jump into Sleeping Beauty, we'll let some people roll in, all that sort of fun stuff. The most recent thing I watched is, unfortunately, the new Naked Gun movie. I thought it was ass. I thought it sucked really hard. I did not find it very funny at all, aside from a couple jokes that made me go, huh, yeah. That was...
So
I could see what...
comedy is still dead. Is that what you're saying?
Oh God, it was so unfunny, man. Like, okay, first of all, I'm a fan of Liam Neeson. I think he's a talented actor. He's not funny. He's not funny in this anyway. I thought it was like horribly directed in terms of like there are a number of things in this new Naked Gun movie that, you hear them said, you see them happen, and you go, oh, I could see how that would be funny. Like, I could see how that was funny on paper. If it wasn't Liam Neeson saying it, if it was Leslie Nielsen saying it, I can like picture him doing something kind of funny with his eyes and making it amusing. But no, I thought this movie sucked, especially compared to the original Naked Gun, which I'm quite fond of. This was a huge letdown. I saw it at like 11:30 in the morning on a Saturday, and the theater was packed. So, it's heartening to see that people want a good comedy and they want to go see a comedy movie in the theaters. But this was not a good one. It was like real awkward, kind of quiet theater going experience. So you could tell people wanted to laugh, but they just weren't really getting anything worth laughing at. So it's just kind of stale. It's like, ooh, that wasn't pleasant.
Yeah, Monopolize Me says I thought his deadpan could be funny, like in the Ted movie cameo. So what I gathered from the trailers of this movie is that the whole joke of the movie is what survived for maybe a single cameo in Ted. Right?
Yeah, he's just not good. He's just not good in this movie. He might be funny with a better script and a better director, but he just was not funny in this. He could not carry the movie. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, some people seem to be enjoying it. I did not at all. I didn't find it very funny. Found it rather disappointing.
Well, the most recent thing I watched was not disappointing, but that's because I knew I liked it already. I rewatched Akira Kurosawa's High and Low. Man, what a movie. What a movie. One of my favorite, maybe my favorite ending of all time. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking it out. It's free to stream on HBO Max, and it's definitely worth it. It's a great detective movie, and it's got some real good stuff in there.
Yeah, I watched it with you a couple of years ago now. I'd like to see it again because it was quite good. Quite good indeed. Canuck Buck says, I watched Song of the South because of your streams. First time I actually caught the stream. Well, welcome, Canuck Buck. What did you think of Song of the South, I wonder?
Yes, we the apologists of the Song of the South movie Very
Certainly enjoy
curious.
it more than people want us to. We'll say
Yes,
that.
that is for sure.
Because I like that movie well enough.
Yeah,
It's
I thought
got
it
a lot
was
of good stuff
I
in it.
thought it was pretty good. I thought the anti anti Song of the South hype around it was wildly overrated. I went in
Yeah.
looking for some good old fashioned racism, and I came out sorely disappointed. Topaz dude, why is Spike Lee remaking High and Low? That's a great question. Part of what I was thinking yesterday was, boy, I can't wait for Spike Lee to ruin this just like he did Old Boy. Man, I sure can't wait for Spike Lee to come along and do something really stupid with this concept. Legit might be top 10 movies ever. I think you might be right on the money for that. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, what else have I seen recently? I've been watching a lot of Eastbound and Down with Danny McBride. Quite a funny show. Very much enjoying that. Still in the middle of that. Uh, and then these Disney movies. That's what I've been watching recently.
I've been watching a lot of Justice League and Superman the Animated Series. Um,
Hmm.
very, very good. I like that stuff a lot. I mean, some of the
Georges.
Superman animated series gets a
Oh,
little goofy, but
yeah,
you know,
sure.
that's what I want from a Superman show.
Georges Rex. No, I don't wish to pit these two movies against each other, but Throne of Blood is my personal favorite Kurosawa movie at the moment,
I
though
mean,
there's still some I have not seen.
you
I
haven't
love
seen
Throne of Blood
Sanjuro
so much.
yet.
No, there's quite a few I haven't seen. I'm
I've got
embarrassed
to
to
get you
say.
to see Sanjuro because I watched
Well,
that recently and I
I still
really
haven't seen Seven Samurai, mostly because it's very
it's
long.
very long. Yeah.
All the classic movies that I haven't seen that I really need to see are all like over 3 hours long, which is why I haven't seen them yet. But I will make up for that at some point soon. Like Lawrence of Arabia, that's another one that I still haven't seen. And then, believe it or not, I have still not seen Gone with the Wind, but for the exact same reason. God, it's almost 4 hours long.
It
It's
really,
just like-
yeah, it's a long one. It's it's a chore. It can be, at least. It can feel like it if you're not in the mood for it. When I tried to
yeah.
watch it for the first time, I really was not feeling it. I wasn't vibing with it, and I did not make it through the entire thing. I made it to the intermission, and I was like, "All right, that's enough for me for now. I'll pick this back up later." I did not. I did not. I do
Canucks
love
Bucks.
that book, though.
Oh,
That is one of my favorite books by a female author. There, so yeah, really
were you about to say that it's a short list?
short list. Yeah, very
I
short
knew you
list.
were
I
going
don't
to
know
say
why they try. I don't know why they keep letting them do this.
Canuck Buck says it's not remotely racist. Speaking of Song of the South, it was quaint and cute. Kid actors weren't very good, but I did like the little moments between the adults. Yeah, that's about what I would say about it. It's way better than people give it credit for. Not that it's amazing. Silvermania says started reading the book Song of the South is based on the Uncle Remus stories. Very interesting read, and neither deserve to be buried and forgotten. That's the big thing for me.
Yes, I agree.
Neither
With that.
deserve to be thrown in the dustbin of history. I think that's a travesty. And as I've said it before, I will say it again. I won't believe that woke is dead until Song of the South is back on Disney Plus. That and if Papa John's is rightfully restored to the throne of Papa John's,
I
you know.
think if anything in pop culture has shown that woke is not dead as of yet, it's the American Eagle controversy exploding this week. I didn't know if it was going to bleed over into the real world. I thought it was going to stay with just the terminally online, but apparently it's picked up enough steam. Stephen Colbert covered it in
He's
the
still
Twilight
alive?
year. He's still alive. He's still got through, I think, through the
That's
end of this
yeah.
year.
The weirdest thing about like the way they canceled his show is that they're like, "Yep, we're canceling your show. You still have 3 months left, or whatever it is,
Yeah,
6 months. It's a long time. Like so, like God, all the like weird attention seeking things he's going to be doing in that final few months. I shudder to think, but I don't watch his show. I
yeah,
watched a really interesting video recently, sort of describing the absolute state of late night television in terms of like how much money they're all losing. It's incredible. What a money pit. You know, you think buying a boat's bad, buying a late night talk show. Oof.
yeah.
Uh,
That yeah,
it's
really. I mean,
crazy how much money they
how
lose.
much money has he been losing? Like pretty consistently for
They
them.
reported it was 40 million a year.
Yeah, that's insane.
Losing $40 million a
And
year.
like that, I think you sent me that video, right? The
Yeah, yeah.
guest list that he's had on that show is abysmal,
Oh
like
God, yeah.
absolutely abysmal. So like it doesn't surprise me that they basically were like, I think we're gonna move. I think we're gonna move on from this. It does surprise me a little bit that they decided to cancel the whole thing, but I think
Yeah.
the video that we watched presented a pretty good argument for why that might be the case that doesn't involve a certain president of the
Yeah,
United
I'm not
States of
I'm not
America.
convinced at all it really had anything to do with that. Once you look into, like, how horribly they were performing financially and for so long, and the best rated one in terms of actual viewership was Colbert, and that was losing $40 million a year, like, there's just no
Well, yeah, what like they're gonna have
you
to
have
make
to
some
be
cuts somewhere, and that's a pretty good one to cut if you're
that's a great
trying
place
to
to cut.
yeah.
That's wild. Yeah. Anyway, so I suppose we could talk about what we're here to talk about, and that is Walt Disney's Sleeping Beauty from 1959. The 2D theatrically released animated Disney arc continues. I'm very excited to talk about this one because I
Yes,
really like it.
putting on our
I
Jordan
think there's a
Peterson
lot
hats to talk about this one.
the symbolism, man, all the themes.
The Dragon
There's a
of
lot to like
Chaos.
about this. The Dragon of Chaos. Yeah, so welcome everyone in the chat. I hope you're all having a fine weekend and that you're excited to talk about Sleeping Beauty because I sure am. I'm a big fan of the fairy tale Disney movies. They're my favorite ones. I think there's just something so nice about them, and I think there's something sort of miraculous about how well they adapt the stories of old in these Disney movies. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
starting all the way, 1937 feels like a long time ago for Snow White, but even at the time, there was a lot of, modernism and cynicism in the culture. Like it was a breath of fresh air even then. Jonathan Pajot talks about this. He's like a Orthodox icon carver and a YouTuber and an author and all that sort of stuff. Big fan of his work. And he was sort of talking about, there were different adaptations of Snow White that preceded the Disney 1937 version. Like there's the one, what's the Betty Boop guy? What's his
Oh,
name?
Max,
I think
yeah, that guy.
Fleischer, Max
Yeah,
Fleischer.
Max Fleischer.
Yes,
Yeah.
he had done a very strange, surreal, kind of edgy, subversive version of Snow White a few years before Disney's Snow White. So, which is kind of crazy to think about that Snow White was actually sort of a refreshing, reclaiming of the past. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
kind of old fashioned at the time, even. And I think there's something miraculous about how faithfully, with the changes that they do make, how faithfully they adapt the sort of spirit of a lot of these classic fairy tales. It's something of a miracle that they managed to do it at all, I would say. Because I would say that Sleeping Beauty, for being made in 1959, is remarkably free of a lot of modern sensibilities. There's some influence, obviously, compared to some of the classic versions. I'm excited to talk about that too because Sleeping Beauty has many original
Yeah,
versions,
this
like
is
from
maybe
different sources.
one of the most difficult to sort of pin down the true, like what you would call like the true original version. Cinderella is up there too. That one's kind of hard
Yeah,
to like exactly figure out which one they were looking at and where it came from. But this one in particular, it comes from very, very many different stories, and it's all an amalgamation of that plus some good old fashioned Christ imagery. We throw that in there, and we got a certified Disney banger going.
yeah, and this is a banger. I really like this one. So this one is based on the Charles Perrault. I'm assuming I'm saying that right. It's French, so I have no idea truly. Um,
Peralt, we do not show
Perrault
respect to.
to their balked pronunciations. Yeah. So this is
You're gonna invent
credited.
consonants. You're gonna pronounce them. I'm gonna make you.
This is credited as being based on his version, which the Grimm's brothers version called Briar Rose is also based on. So this is not technically based on the Grimm's fairy tales version, though they obviously have some things in common. But it's still, there are quite a few significant changes to the story in this adaptation. Before we talk about what any of those are, I wanted to briefly highlight someone we've not really talked about at all in our little Disney arc journey that we've been on, is the writer. One of the writers, the main writer of this movie, the main person adapting it for the screen, is a man named Erdman Penner. Penner, by the way, great name for a writer. Erdman Penner is the writer of the story adaptation for Disney's Pinocchio. He did one segment for Fantasia. He did a few of the other ones like that we didn't cover, like the shorts, like Melody Time and The Reluctant Dragon, some of the Disney things that happened during World War II. And then he did the story for Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp, and Sleeping Beauty. And it's like, man, those are all bangers.
That's an absolute string of wins.
Yes. So he, obviously with the influence of people like Walt Disney. And I mean, if you click on many of these in terms of the writing credits, you'll see like additional story by this person. So, I'm not sure if that means like they contributed like a to the writing of a certain animated sequence or what, but there are like 6 people given additional story credits. But story adaptation is Erdman Penner, and the story is based on Charles Perrault's Sleeping Beauty. And man, Erdman Penner, shout out to my boy Penner, did an excellent job with this movie, but not just this movie, all the other ones I mentioned as well. Absolute bangers. The story is pretty goddamn solid in all of them. I think especially solid here. I'm very impressed with how they managed to adapt what is a rather strange and kind of narratively loose and meandering original story. The story of Sleeping Beauty and Briar Rose and all that is kind of a weird one in terms of making it into a film. There's not a lot there, so you do have to do what many of these Disney movies have had to do, which is invent little smaller sequences and things like that to fill out the time. But also, the ending is rather unsatisfying, I would say. I'll talk a little bit about it.
Briar Rose?
Yeah, the original, like how they ultimately solve the problem and win the day. It's just like, well, she was asleep for 100 years, and then the 100 years was up, and the prince came, and then they live happily ever after. And it's like, oh, I like what they did here a lot better.
Yeah. Yes,
the whole slaying the dragon thing is pretty fucking badass.
Yeah, I didn't actually manage to get into the original story for this one. I wasn't able to well, I could have tracked it down, but I couldn't be asked to do it. So for this one, I just kind of rolled with the movie, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty fucking cool film. That was the main thing that I remembered from watching this when I was young. The battle sequence between the prince and Maleficent, I thought was really fucking cool.
Oh man, it's so cool.
Really cool.
So I did read the Grimm's Brothers version and like a plot synopsis of the like 3 or 4 other versions that, there's some debate about which one's the original and all that. So I've read a few of them, and so I know a little bit about some of the differences. I suppose maybe we could start there with some of what Sleeping Beauty is being adapted from. Let's see. Let's start there. So Sleeping Beauty.
We want to go for that one first, or
no? I think because it's more this movie is more based on the Charles Perrault, whatever his name is, version. So his version, so every version has kind of 2 parts, right? The first part is all that's being adapted in this movie. There is like a second story that also involves Sleeping Beauty as a character, where like years into their marriage, the prince has to fight a war, and so he leaves and puts his mother in charge, but the king's mother is actually an ogre, and so the ogre doesn't like Sleeping Beauty and their children and tries to kill and eat them, but they play a trick on her to stop her from doing that. And eventually the king returns home, and then his ogre mom is outed for being the beast that she is, and then she's killed, and then everyone lives happily ever after. That's like a second part that shows up in the Grimm's Brothers. It shows up in Perrault's version. That's a common part two, if you will. That obviously is not going to show up in the movie. But so the version that this is adapted from is similar in many ways. It's, they have the christening for their new daughter, and I think in Perrault's version there are 7 fairies who are invited, and there's an older fairy that's overlooked because everyone assumes she's dead because she hasn't left her tower in 50 years. So, but then she shows up, the 8th fairy, the one that no one invited, and obviously she's very upset about it, and so she curses the princess. And then, like on her 15th birthday, she's going to prick her finger on the spindle, and then she's going to die. And then the last fairy is like, oh, like I can't undo the curse, but I can soften it.
I can make an amendment. I can amend
exactly.
this.
And so instead of dying, the princess falls into a deep sleep for 100 years to be awakened by a king's son. So then a lot of similar things happen. The king orders all the spinning wheels and spindles in the kingdom banned and destroyed to try to subvert it. And then what's interesting about this version and the Grimm's Brothers version is that one day the princess is sort of like wandering through, the castle, and she kind of goes up to this high room in a tower, and there's a mysterious old woman there who's on a spindle, and she's spinning flax into, whatever. And she's like, what's that? I've never seen something like that before. And the old woman is like, oh, it's a spindle. Look, try it. And so she tries it. She pricks her finger, and then she falls into, a deep sleep for 100 years. Now, in this version and the Grimm's Brothers version, it's very heavily implied that that's the 8th fairy, the evil witch fairy.
The Maleficent fairy, yeah.
Exactly, who is playing a trick and disguising herself because, the king had ordered all of them to be banned and destroyed, but obviously, she managed to keep one or something like that. And so she plays a trick. She falls asleep for 100 years. And then and I can't remember if it's this version or another version, but like a bunch of trees and, briars and brambles and thorns cover this kingdom and sort of keep it from the outside world and keep it exactly as it is for 100 years. In some version, everyone else falls asleep too, and then it's just protected for 100 years. And in that time, a number of princes come and try and fight their way in, cut their way in, and rescue the princess and all that sort of stuff. But none are able to do it until one eventually just is. And I say it like that because it is kind of that unsatisfying. It's like after 100 years, one guy who's like, I'm brave enough to do it. And then he
just
does
autistic enough to not care about the tedium of cutting through so many thorns. Yeah,
yeah, something like that.
I was bored for this.
And then he comes in and, sees her beauty and falls on his knees. In this version, the one that that this movie is based on, he doesn't kiss her. He just sees her, falls to his knees, but then she wakes up because the curse has been lifted. So it's it's rather unsatisfying, I would say. It just seems like, well, she fell asleep for 100 years, and then after 100 years passed, she woke up and everything was fine.
And this is not one of the ones where she is I did manage to get some of the the older or some of the other versions of this where she falls asleep and she's rescued but the kings or princes are so overcome with lust for her as she's asleep that they get her pregnant right then and there, and she gives birth and eventually wakes up several years later, realizing now that she's got a 7-year-old and she's been married, and those are all particularly strange.
Some of the older versions which share less in common overall with this movie. Yeah, there is the prince impregnates her while she's asleep in this, under this spell. They obviously did not do that in the Disney version,
yes.
But they didn't do that in the version that this is based on either, which I believe
It ruined
was
culture.
written.
They did by doing that, by excluding that.
Yeah, so this version was written in 1697. So that's the one that is being adapted here, and there was no raping in that one.
Shame.
But a little strange, and ultimately, I think a little narratively unsatisfying. So the task is given to our boy Penner to adapt this into a film, and I think he did a pretty excellent job.
I think he really nailed it.
Yeah,
Kept
he
all
really
that
did.
shit out of there. We got a couple new super chats real quick. Sir Marhouse, thank you very much. Says, last night I rewatched your Pinocchio video, and it is funny how I get a double dose of Petersonian symbolism with this stream. Yes, you sure will. There's a lot in here that I think old
Symbolically
JP
rich, I
would be
would say.
very, very thrilled by.
Yes.
His symbolism senses, his Jungian senses are tingling when he hears the sword of truth and the shield of virtue.
Exactly.
Blank face, thank you very much. Says Germans are weird. Yes.
Yeah.
Wholesale.
I think one of the rapier versions actually comes from modern day Spain as well.
Ooh,
So
there's a surprise.
Yeah, there's a couple other things in the chat I wanted to respond to. Let's see. Sleeping Beauty has got to be one of my top classic Disney movies. I like the prince in this. Yeah, he's great. I think there's a lot to love about this movie. Eventually, we'll get to how this compares to the ones we've talked about already. I'm actually kind of excited for that conversation. Topaz Dude says, wait, pause. This isn't a double review alongside Maleficent. Yeah,
well,
I didn't want to watch that at all.
Have you seen Maleficent?
No, I haven't.
Okay, because I might bring it up because I watched it, back in the day.
All right, now feels like a good time. Bring it up, Hugh.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we really, the ultimate failing of Sleeping Beauty is that the evil Satan fairy wasn't truly humanized enough, and actually probably was only viewed that way because she's a woman, and we are inherently misogynistic as a society and a culture. So it was inevitable that we should give her her own feature where actually she loves and cares for Sleeping Beauty, and it's her father who's the evil, the truly evil one.
Gross.
Yeah.
Fuck that noise. That sounds terrible.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's why I didn't watch it. It did seem like that sort of thing.
That's exactly what it is. I can't remember.
It's Wicked. It's the fucking Cruella movie. It's, these things we've seen before. Oh, obviously, female villains are really just misunderstood. Women can't be evil, even if they have names that mean evil.
Yes. She was a beautiful young woman, pure of heart. Maleficent was. She had an idyllic life in a forest kingdom, but an invading army threatens her land, so she rises up to become its fiercest protector. However, a terrible betrayal by Sleeping Beauty's father hardens her heart and twists her into a creature bent on revenge. She engages in an epic battle with the invading king's successor, then curses his newborn daughter, realizing only later that the child holds the key to peace in the kingdom.
Wait. So she only curses Sleeping Beauty because her father, the king, was like an invading, evil, brutal.
Yes.
Oh, God. That sucks. That sucks really hard. Yeah. So before we get too far into the story, there's something like one of the things that a sort of little theme that runs through basically every version of Sleeping Beauty, from the Middle Ages to now, is the sort of like the forgotten, uninvited fairy or witch, sorceress, whatever. You know what I mean? And I made this joke when I was promoting the stream on Twitter. That's like, listen, you gotta invite the obviously evil sorceress to the party, right? You can't ignore her. You can't just because it'll be so much worse. You just gotta invite her. She's gonna ruin the vibe. She's going to creep people out.
She's going to ruin the vibe. She's going to creep people out. She's going to make everybody sad by ranting about the Sydney Sweeney Jeans ad. But you're just going to have to,
you got to invite her. You got to put up with her.
Put up with it, not mention her therapy bill. Don't bring that up.
But there's something about the sort of forgotten and the left out causing problems here. Like he tries to destroy all the spindles in the land, but it's like an impossible task. And then all it takes is one that he missed. And like I don't know, there's something about the whole kingdom like falling into sleep for 100 years and having to be rediscovered and found, and you don't know. There's an interesting sort of thing there, and I would say that Maleficent's retelling ruins that entirely. Go figure. Basically, I think at this point it's pretty safe to say that anything that starts with a feminist retelling of, you can just throw directly into the garbage. I think I mean I can't imagine there is
I can't
good
imagine
version
a
of
good
that.
version of that. Yeah.
No, I really can't, because it always stems from there was something wrong with the original beloved thing. It's time to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Just like Disney just tried to do again with Snow White, and it failed pretty horribly for them.
Yeah, good thing Lilo and Stitch came along, right? and taught them
Yeah.
proper lessons this time.
Oh God. Yeah. Well. So let's talk about Sleeping Beauty, the Disney one.
Yes.
Shall we?
Let's do that. You want me to switch over to the trailer, or are we?
Yeah, why not?
Okay,
I think we can switch over to the trailer.
There's the fanfare. Let's go.
Before we start talking about, the story itself, I want to briefly cover all the non-story aspects of it, and we can sort of review it from that perspective. The visuals and the music and the performances, all that sort of fun stuff. Let's start with the visuals. I think this might be the most controversial part of the stream based on what little discussion there was last week about this. Q, what do you think of the animation in this movie?
I think it's pretty great.
Yeah,
I kind of love it, actually.
Like it.
I think it looks very much like a Disney-fied version of a tapestry, of like a medieval tapestry, right? Like they've stuck with a lot of that really interesting sort of side-scrolling animation for a lot of it, and the colors are all very purposeful and bright.
Yes.
I think that I really like it. I think it looks really good, and I think that the way that they use cinematic techniques through the animation, for example, the snap zooms, they're quite
hell yeah, dog.
Those are a lot of fun. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think compared to, let's say, Cinderella, which wasn't too long ago, I think the animation style is a little bit more flat in this than it is in Cinderella. There's something about, a lot of the backgrounds are very kind of static, and there's a general sort of flat point of view that we take with a lot of these shots where we're looking straight on at something.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why I think it kind of evokes the sort of older medieval.
I think you're right,
things,
and I was just about to get to that. It does feel distinctly different than the ones that came before it, and I think there are some, decisions that they make. There's some choices, some, decisions that really pay off, and others that feel just a little like, this just looks a little flat. I would not say that this is an ugly movie by any means, but I don't think it's quite as beautiful as some of the ones we've talked about previously. Cinderella and Lady and the Tramp, and some of the ones that led up to this, I think looked better. Though there is plenty of really, really, really incredible, like cinematic, sequences, especially with the dragon at the end. There's some surreal imagery when they're like giving her the gifts of, wisdom and beauty and all that sort of stuff that looks really, really cool.
Song, and then the first amendment to Maleficent's curse. Yeah.
So I appreciate that they tried to do something a little different visually here, and I think it mostly pays off. But it's just, there's something kind of flat about some of it.
Yeah,
that
I don't
think
know that
is
like
as
some
strong.
of the styles from like their most recent ones would have succeeded in feeling the same way, right? Like if we had done more of a Lady and the Tramp kind of animation, it might not have felt like a medieval fairy tale story. Yeah, like I don't know, that it just.
I mean, but what about Cinderella?
Yeah, that. Yeah, I think I get your point from that.
They're not massive differences. I would say they're fairly subtle, the difference between how this looks and how Cinderella looks, and I just think I like the way Cinderella looks a little better. But, you know, this is still an excellent looking movie, but I didn't get the same sort of like, "Wow, this is stunning," um, feeling from this movie as I did some of the other ones. There's plenty of great sequences. Like you said, their use of color, and there's a lot of great visual comedy in this movie. This is a surprisingly funny movie. Um, I laughed way harder at this than I did at the new Naked Gun, if that tells you anything. Um, there's a lot of fun to be had visually in this film. I just think the backgrounds are really pretty, but they feel a little flat sometimes. But I can understand the decision too, because a lot of medieval art is a bit more flat. There's less sort of like 3D perspective to it. People tend to face forward and all that stuff. So there's a flattening effect. I don't know how else to describe it, but so it feels
They hadn't
purposeful, I would
discovered
say.
perspective yet back then.
Yeah, they were just
Yeah,
dumb,
yeah.
and that's why they did it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they were
It's
they were
not.
basically drunk 24/7 and pretty much retarded. So that's kind of it goes a long way to explaining why they couldn't achieve the same incredible things that, for example, the new Lilo and Stitch does, or The Lion King 2019.
I was a little worried you were serious for part of that. Because that's a commonly held perspective, but you had me going in the beginning. But anyway, there's a lot of great visual stuff in this movie. I just do think there's a little tiny bit of a step down in some respects. There's
Yeah,
some
I
scenes where
don't know
there's
if
like,
I'm 100% there, but I can see what you're saying. Yeah, I think I'm more on board with the idea of doing this style for this kind of story. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
I think there's a sequence in particular that I thought was just a little visually boring. It was when the two kings are like talking with each other and then they start to fight and everything. That little sequence just
yeah,
felt like
I can understand. Like it is, that's one of the funnier, one of my favorite scenes in the movie too,
it is
where the
funny.
comedy really
Yeah, for
carries
sure.
But yeah, I see what you're saying. I think that another difference like, that makes it work better for me in this one as opposed to like if they had brought something more like Cinderella is that this one is very much. I think people forget this because it's sort of viewed as a princess movie, but this is very much more like knights and dragons and like chivalry kind of story than a lot of people I think give it credit for.
I
And
think so too. It has a little bit of everything,
yeah,
I would say.
yeah, the prince
It
is a
has
much more
funny it
active
has funny
role.
old women bickering with each other. It has
Yes.
princes fighting dragons. It has, longing for true love and singing songs about it. It's got a little bit of something for everybody. And to be clear to anyone wondering in the chat, I do think this is a really great looking movie, and I understand why it looks different to some of the previous ones. I think I just like the Cinderella sort of look a little better. And mostly there's just a couple sequences that are just feel like they could have spruced up visually. Not like the final battle with the dragon is one of the best looking things ever animated, right? But there's just a couple things in the movie where it's like, we could have done something a little more interesting here to give it a little more life, maybe. I don't know. But Sir Marhaus, yes, Hugh rage baiting me as a medievalist. Yeah, that was good. Disney has, thank you very much for the super chat. Says Disney has a whole documentary with its animators and background artists from this film. The tapestry idea gets brought up a bit in it. That makes sense. I'm not surprised that this was all very deliberate because it is a distinct change in style from some of the previous films. So it's remarkable in that respect.
Yep.
Jay Jameson says the one major downside to this is that Aurora doesn't have a lot to do. Well, let's talk about that. So
Yes.
that
Yeah,
would
let's
be
do
the
that.
biggest criticism from the sort of feminist side of things here is how passive, their words, she is. Now, we've talked about this when we talked about Snow White, because what you would say in response about Snow White is that Snow White is a sort of paragon of certain feminine virtues and that she inspires goodness and bravery and all that in other people. And it's very much a story about her effect on other people. So I think
Yeah.
it's sort of it might seem passive on the surface if you're a feminist who just wants every female character to be exactly like a man. But I think
Well,
if you actually
and yet, I do think that even though she is rather passive, right? She's not. She's rather passive, but like her name Aurora, right? She's named. We find out like early in the movie, first thing. She's named for the dawn because she brings light and sunshine wherever she goes, right?
Yeah.
And if you really get down to it, the three major heroes of the story are the fairies, the three fairies who brave Maleficent's tower to rescue the prince and give him the
Hmm.
blessings of virtue and truth. And they go along with him to sort of make sure that Maleficent's evil magic can't do him harm on his way to rescue the princess. And they start off as sort of meek and shy and a bit worried about, how they're going to, they feel like in the face of Maleficent's evil, they're not going to be able to, you know, do anything to help this child, right? But the love for Aurora and yeah, as they know her, Briar Rose, right? That inspires these three into
Hmm.
acts of bravery and daring that
The same thing for the
yeah,
prince, right?
same thing for the prince. Yeah, same thing for
Yeah.
the prince. But
So
like,
it's a bit
the
more of an
reason
on.
that I
Go
bring up
ahead.
the fairies in particular is because if you wanted to argue like from a feminist perspective that it's like, oh, the woman is inspiring the man, it's not just the man, right? It's the other
Yeah.
three women in the story as well. So
Yeah, they're probably the most consistently active, taking actions towards goals in the film. So you could definitely make the argument that they function more as protagonists than anyone else. But it really is an ensemble story, you know.
yeah,
Everyone gets their moment and their time and stuff like that. So obviously, it's kind of baked into the story that Aurora can't be super active in much of it, you know, because not only obviously is she, cursed to fall into a coma essentially, but she's being hidden for years in the woods. There's not a lot for her to do there. That's kind of the whole point of the story. So I think compared to some other characters, she maybe is not as active, but like I think on the whole, there's plenty of characters acting towards goals and stuff like that, and everything facing obstacles. And it's a lot of the similar things that are happening in Snow White, where like her virtue and beauty and grace and goodness is inspiring virtues in others, especially the prince, who represents a bit more of those active virtues like bravery and daring and courage and all that sort of fun stuff.
yeah.
I
Well,
think
I
it's
mean,
a
like
I think
that
it's a
opening
great little
sequence
story.
of all of the townspeople, right? Like everybody in the kingdom comes to the christening ceremony,
Yeah.
singing "Hail to the Princess Aurora," named again for the light and the dawn, right? So it's a
Hmm.
little bit like the the divine has blessed them with, you know, uh, truth and
The
wisdom
beautiful
and
daughter.
virtue
Yeah.
and like beauty and all that is good in the world. Uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, so I think that
But
that's
but the fatal mistake they make is that they don't invite death,
death. Yeah,
essentially, to the party. They try to pretend like evil and death aren't a part of it, but she
yeah,
is a part of it. And that's why it's interesting, I think, especially this version, because Maleficent is obviously evil, and that's why they don't invite her, as opposed to some of the other ones where she's, like, the odd one out that everyone forgets about
she's the
or
ex that the king just didn't want at.
There are different versions of it, but in this one it's like she's obviously kind of evil, and she's obviously represents death among other things. It's like, they don't invite that into the story and then they pay the price for it, because there's the implication that if they just invited her from the beginning and sort of acknowledged the sort of darkness inherent to the world and life itself and all that sort of stuff like that, that this curse wouldn't have happened in the first place,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I always found very
Well, I
interesting.
think that the main, like, the thing that gives that the most evidence, is when Maleficent says, like, I didn't receive an invitation, and Merryweather says you weren't wanted, right? Like, well,
Hmm.
yeah, of course, but she is inevitable. She is death
Yeah,
and shadow to the light. So, yeah,
yeah.
to
You
paraphrase a
kind of
Jordan,
do need to invite her,
yeah.
symbolically speaking.
What can you get? Like, can you have a light without a shadow? And the answer is, you know, No, it
It's interesting because I think she might be one of the most iconic bits of this movie as a villain.
absolutely,
She's
yeah.
often cited as one of the favorites, and it's kind of funny. One of the other people is often cited as one of the best villains in any Disney movie is Scar, and her and Scar actually have a little bit in common. I would
Yeah.
say in terms of like how they talk and how they carry themselves. It's really interesting, because you know Maleficent does sort of carry herself like she's royalty, right? She has her own castle at the top of this very craggly, rocky mountain. It's a castle of death
She has her
essentially, but
fortress of
she
pandemonium. Yeah.
yes, exactly, but she does rule it like a queen, right? Um and like the way she carries herself, she's kind of sassy and yeah, she's very well spoken and she reminds me of Scar a
Well, she
lot in
calls
terms
the three fairies. So like, there's a lot I want to get into with the three fairies, but she calls them the rabble when
yeah.
she like arrives, right? Which gives this sort of like it immediately implies a haughtiness and a sort of like aristocratic presence to her, right?
Mhm.
She's tall and she's like elegant, classically
Yes.
like harsh but elegant, in her features, as opposed to the softer, rounder, smaller, good fairies, right?
Yeah.
That
Who
also
are very
does,
much like, cherubs in a sense.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah, and they come from, you can see it in the trailer on the screen, right? They come from like a light shining through the ceiling. These three angels who come
Yes.
down, right? And then she arrives and sort of like they know her. They all are aware of who she is, right? And she calls them the rabble, sort of implying that like she left, right? She was cast, like she's not part of their, you know their pathetic little kingdom she went to make her own, right? She has her illusions of grandeur, and
Yeah.
all of that.
Well, she rules a kingdom of death, like, it doesn't produce anything, like, all the images of her, like, she can't actually bear any fruit, essentially, at
Yeah.
all. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, like, so when she, puts a curse upon the castle itself, all these, like, thorns and vines, like, there's no fruiting trees or plants or anything like that. Everything about her is like it can't actually sustain itself. It can't actually generate anything good. It's like that Tolkien quote about good and evil. Do you know what I'm talking about? It
Yeah, I
can't
think
actually produce anything. It
I
can only destroy something like that.
yeah,
I don't. People in
yeah,
the chat will know the quote.
somebody will. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, but
it's in there
she.
somewhere. The last time I read Lord of the Rings, I was like smoking a lot of weed when I did it. So like
The
the basic, like,
memory's a little fuzzy. I get it.
pictures of the of the story are there, right? Like I have a lot of very distinct images, but specific lines not so much. Those didn't
Georges
stick.
Rex says, "Why does she hate babies? Maybe some babies pushed her mother off a cliff." Yeah, did you ever think about that,
Yeah,
Hugh?
I did consider it, and I want to see that movie. Somebody mentioned that there's a Maleficent 2. I was completely unaware of that. But maybe that's where that comes from. That would have been a hilarious
Hmm.
addition. Is a bunch of little fat CGI babies chasing her
Yeah.
mother off a cliff. And
But to the point about, Maleficent being something that they're punished for not inviting and acknowledging and giving its due, essentially. Um, I mean, the king tries to pull the same thing as soon as she places the curse. It's like, he like, oh, well, she's going to prick herself on a spindle, and that's how she's going to die, or like nearly die. Well, I guess I better destroy all the spindles in the kingdom. It's like he's always trying to like find ways of preventing his daughter and not for no reason of ever encountering sort of death and danger in the world at all, right? Like,
yeah,
so instead of acknowledging the existence of evil and danger and death in the world, he is always trying to shield her from it. And that even goes with the fairies who try to hide her in the woods in this sort of idyllic little cottage rather in the woods, a little bit like Snow White. There's a lot of Snow White being drawn upon in this movie, which is interesting to me. But like the implication is pretty clear, I think, that if they just invited her and just kind of all sort of like,
acknowledge that
treated
death was a
her
part
with
of life, right? Like, yeah,
yes, exactly.
yeah. that is the inherent failing of them at the beginning, right? Is
Yes,
attempting to have all of the good, all of the light without the shadow.
exactly.
Yeah. The Happy Goof 4, thank you so much for going and doing the research on this one. Evil is not able to create anything new. It can only distort and destroy what has been invented or made by the forces of good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of the symbolism of Maleficent in this is that. You know what I mean? Like in
Oh yeah.
her castle, like it's all like stone, but it hasn't been well maintained or
Oh, it's
upkept. And all
crumbling and yeah.
she has all these little stupid animals, like except for the crow
It's
are
like
not very clever.
swine, snakes, and lizards, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's really good. It's good
There's
shit, man.
light, but it's like that sickly glowing green color.
Mhm.
That Disney is so
Yeah. Oh,
fond of
let's talk
using in
about the
these. Yeah.
colors. Yeah, this is perfectly in keeping with the general pattern of Disney movies so far, which I absolutely love. And it's that primary colors are good and secondary colors are evil. I love it so much. It first shows up in Snow White. He's been doing it ever since. A lot of his heroes tend to be cloaked in primary colors. Obviously, Snow White, Pinocchio, Cinderella, now Sleeping Beauty. There's even a bit where obviously Sleeping Beauty has beautiful blonde hair, and then there's some debate about whether her dress should be pink or blue.
Yep. I that
And then in the end, it's just kind of like, they do both essentially, which is kind of funny. And then, but then obviously Maleficent, perhaps more than any of the others, really embodies that the purple and green being evil. Uh,
yeah, very
Color
much.
theory device. It's great, especially when she becomes a dragon at the end.
Like yeah,
And
purple and green. Prince Philip has he has his red cape and hat, his white horse, and then he ends up getting like a blue shield, right? Like that's all
mhm,
primary, like red,
yep.
white, and blue. The symbolism there not lost on us Americans here.
Yep.
The point being that America is good and will conquer evil. I don't know any
Yeah,
country that uses purple and green for its flag, but watch out.
I'm gonna look it up, see if there are any out there. List of flags containing the color purple. But do any of them have green and purple, I wonder?
That would be that'd be a very strange combination to go with.
It would be.
Yeah.
It certainly would be.
I mean, like it
And I
would
can't find any
practically
countries that
signpost
have
that
it.
you are evil if you did something like that.
Oh, you know what? They should have made the Baravian flag green and purple in Superman, so we
Mm.
know that they're
So we
obviously
know
the
that
bad
they're
guys.
obviously the bad guys. Yeah, yeah. Or,
Yeah.
or we could have just done like a sort of a light blue and white, maybe, Eh, if we really wanted to tell everybody.
For no particular
Yeah, no,
reason.
I don't know
Yeah.
where that. Yeah, yeah. Maybe put like a little star in the middle or something, but not like a regular one. One that looks like you might have drawn it in like in a notebook or something. Just a thought.
Anywho,
Yeah.
just a thought. It was no bad ideas in a brainstorm. So, Sleeping Beauty, as many of the classic Disney films did, starts with a nice little overture at the beginning, and text on screen. This is still Buena Vista distributing these. I still wonder when we'll get to the point where Disney is distributing its own movies. But yeah, beautiful little overture in the beginning. I really like the music in this movie, like Once Upon a Dream and all that sort of stuff.
Dude, that's
This,
such a good song.
oh,
Once
there's
Upon
so
a
many good
Dream is
songs.
so good.
Yeah, Once Upon a Dream. It's classic Disney, obsessed with dreams and wishes. It's so good. So many great lyrics. Like, I know you, I walked with you once upon a dream. I know you, the gleam in your eyes is so familiar. Yeah, there's so
Yeah.
many great. It's so good. The music is lovely, and I love the way it sort of returns at the end too. It's very satisfying. Just like the experience of bringing back some of these musical themes for like the triumphant victory over evil. It's great. So then after our little intro, we open the film and it's a storybook again in sort of live action. I think it's shot a bit like stop motion actually. You can only really tell when the book itself is being opened and the pages being turned, but it looks a little bit like stop motion to me. Anyway, but it starts with a bejeweled, very pretty, almost medieval manuscript looking version of Sleeping Beauty, and it opens the pages. There's these lovely little illustrations. Eventually, we sort of zoom into them, and we're told that for a long time the king and the queen have wanted a child and have tried for one, and finally that their their prayers were answered, and they named her Aurora, which is named after the dawn. And so obviously her representing light and everything is obviously very important. It's obviously very important to the story that the queen sort of brings upon them a supernatural darkness, and that the prince has to restore it and bring light back into the world. All very deliberate sort of things. So basically the movie opens like The Lion King, essentially.
Yeah.
um Everyone in the kingdom has been gathered to give their gifts and their respect, and see the new baby. Everyone's there, including King Hubert, a neighboring king, who they one day hoped that their
No
kingdoms would
relation,
be.
by the way.
No relation to, yes, no relation to you. God, I can't remember what's the other king's name. There's King Hubert, and who's the other one? Do you
Uh,
remember?
Daniel.
King Hubert has a son, Prince Philip, and then King Stefan. Stefan,
Yes,
or
Stefan. Yes, yes,
that's
yes.
his name.
Yeah, and
They
because
go ahead.
sorry, I'm looking at, I was like, oh yeah, Stefan, but I'm looking at the Maleficent plot summary because I had that pulled up, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, as a child, she meets a boy named Stefan, and they fall in love. So yeah, Maleficent is his ex that he didn't want to
That
invite to his
sucks.
child's christening.
That sucks so hard. Anyway, so King Stefan and King Hubert hope that one day their kingdoms might be united through marriage. And so King Hubert has his son, who is Prince Philip, who is maybe like, I don't know, 6 or 7 or something like that, at the christening of the newborn Aurora. And
Yes.
so we're told that they are betrothed to be wed one day, and that will sort of unite the two kingdoms. And won't that be lovely? But then, and there's a
And
nice little funny.
his little face where he
Yeah.
like looks into the thing, he's like, I don't know. This one might turn into an Uggo.
Yeah, so like right when we're told that they're set to be betrothed one day, we see a shot of Prince Philip, the young Prince Philip, looking at the baby, and he's got a sort of like, I don't know about this look on his face.
Like,
It's pretty amusing.
really? We think this one's gonna turn out hot? Okay, you say so.
And then the three fairies, Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather,
Yeah.
arrive to bestow their gifts
And I
upon the
love the
baby.
naming of those three,
Oh, it's
right?
great.
Like flora, plants, fauna, animals, merry weather, fair weather, right? So like the natural
Yes.
world has arrived to bless
Yep.
her with, gifts of beauty, song, and you don't end up finding out what Merryweather's original plan was to, because Maleficent comes
Assume
in
that
and
it's
just,
something like good fortune,
yeah.
I would say, or either that or like a fair temperament. It's not really clear, but something like that. Because I say that because the other ones are very much related to their names. Because Flora gives her the gift of beauty. Obviously, she's plants, but especially flowers is the implication. You know, her beauty is compared to that of flowers many times throughout the movie, even by Maleficent.
Yeah.
Um,
The beauty of the stars and flowers, and yeah, they've got that. And then song is closely tied to birds. So
Yeah,
then
we
that,
see
yeah.
a bunch of birds in the sort of surreal, dreamlike sequence where her wish is being described, that she will have the gift of song. So we don't get to hear what the original gift the fairy Merryweather would give her. Probably something like good fortune or a fair temperament and stuff like that. Unclear. But before she can, a storm is forming outside, and then there's a great shot. I can't actually show it to you because Disney Plus doesn't like me getting screenshots here. I couldn't find a still of it online, but the doors swing open with the wind. Everyone's panicking, like, oh my god, what's all the commotion and everything. And like lightning strikes, and it does something very similar to what it did in the animation for Lady and the Tramp in the finale, where like everything goes black, but this like harsh side, like highlights along all the
Yeah.
figures in the room. It looks so cool. Anyway, Maleficent arrives with the storm, which is really interesting because if you think about it symbolically, the fact that she's royalty is important, right? because she lives in a high castle and everything. She comes with the storm, and like everything she's associated with is like high, not low, right? She's not the devil coming from hell,
She doesn't come
essentially.
from beneath us. Devils
They-
come
the-
from above.
exactly. To slip Jolly Ranchers into our mouths.
Yes. Speaking of slipping, Georgius Rex mentioned the deleted scene where Philip slips Flora a 20 and says, "Hey, just give her the gift of
Make her
beauty.
beautiful,
Make her
would you?
beautiful, please, please,
Yeah.
for me."
Yeah. And so she arrives from above with the storm, with the thunder and lightning, which is also the natural world, which I think is important, right? Like she sort of rules over animals as well. And also she is a representative of the natural world. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. As opposed to something, obviously her name is evil. Everything about her is evil coded, but like we mentioned before, it's all sort of the result of ignoring and excluding this aspect of nature and the natural world, right?
Yep.
Because and she when she arrives, the way she carries herself and the way she talks is very much like she is royalty. You know what I mean? And I think that's important to the symbolism.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, there is an idea, right, that like death and all of that is overall the final boss of all life, right?
Yeah.
Undefeated. That is, the sort of symbolic idea, right? And they
hmm
deliberately chose to exclude that because they're in denial of
Well,
its
it's
importance.
interesting when we get to it because ultimately she does need to be defeated, but it's like when she turns monstrous that she is ultimately defeated. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
There's always the sort of implication that if they just acknowledged her from the beginning, that none of this would have happened. But she turns into a dragon at the end. I think the dragon symbolism is really important. We'll talk about
Yeah.
it when we
Yeah.
get to it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
She arrives and she's like, "Oh, hello." And everyone's kind of looking at her with fear and suspicion. And she's like, "Hey, like, wow, look, everyone's here. Royalty, nobility, the gentry. Oh, look, even the rabble." She gets in her little dig at the other fairies, and this is consistent throughout the movie. But I love the way that like Merryweather, the shortest, like the squattest and fattest of them, like when she gets mad, she kind of like shakes her arms and body side to side, and she goes, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so mad."
Oh,
It's so
I'll
funny.
show you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I
And
oughta.
she's like, "Oh, I can't believe I wasn't invited." And then that's when the fairy Merryweather says, like, "Oh, it's because you weren't wanted." And she's like, "Oh, I see how it is." At first she comes like, "Oh, was it a mistake that I wasn't invited?" Like, "Oh no, it was deliberate. Oh, well, that's a shame." And then the very naive queen is like, "Well, you're not offended, are you?" And she's like, "Oh no, of course not. By the way, I curse your daughter to death."
Yeah. I'll. By the way, your daughter is gonna die from
Yeah.
sewing. Fail at the traditional women's sports.
She's gonna prick her finger and die on her 16th birthday. She just sort of jumps in to the curse right after saying like, "Oh no, of course I'm not offended," which is pretty funny. She's got a little sassiness about her, just like Scar in that way, and I appreciate it. I was going to briefly bring up how this plays out in Briar Rose. Briar Rose is the Grimm's fairy tales version of Sleeping Beauty. Because it's kind of funny. They take a different tack with her. So let's see. So in the Grimm's fairy tales version, there are 12 fairies. And then the 13th one is the one that's not invited, right? So it's the leftover. It's the sort of baker's dozen type thing. Just as 11 had given their presents, the 13th old lady stepped in and suddenly, the old lady stepped in suddenly. She was in a tremendous passion because she had not been invited. And without greeting or looking at anyone, she exclaimed loudly, "The princess shall prick herself with a spindle on her 15th birthday and die." And without a word further, she turned her back and left. Which I just
Not quite
find
as
really funny.
not quite as imposing a figure.
No, but there's something very funny
It
about
is
that to
funny.
me.
Yeah.
She just like doesn't even say anything to anyone. She just walks into the room. It's like she's gonna die when she's 15, and then turns away and leaves. Pretty good. Pretty good
Yeah,
stuff.
that is
Anyway,
nice.
so she curses the poor girl to die on her 15th birthday, and then she leaves. And everyone's like, "Oh shit! Oh fuck! What are we gonna do?" And they turn to the fairies, and they're like, "Hey, is there
Well,
anything you
one of
can
them,
do?"
she says like, "Oh, Merryweather hasn't given her, blessing yet," and he goes, "Oh, you can undo it
True.
then," and she's like, uh,
No,
well."
no. Well, it's funny because they kind of push her forward, like, "Come on, Meriwether, you still haven't given your thing yet." And then she like rolls up her little sleeves on her tiny little arms, like, "Well, I'll do my best." I like a lot of the comedy that comes from the fairies in this movie. They're very fun and charming. There's plenty of laughs that come from them, little tiny character movements and details like that are quite amusing. But basically, we're told, well, we can't undo the curse, and that is true in every version of this story, going back hundreds of years. There's always a sort of acknowledgement like, oh, well, she is more powerful and we can't undo what she did, but we can try and soften it, right? So, unlike the many other versions that all have something to the effect of, oh, well, instead of dying, she's just going to fall asleep for 100 years. And eventually she'll be awoken by the son of a king. In this version, it's classic Disney. There's very much drawing on Snow White here. That like, oh, like tiny little bit of hope that one day true love's kiss will wake her from her slumber. I love that as a choice because I think it gives the prince and just in general something more active to do to solve the problem rather than, oh, she's just gonna be asleep for 100 years and then after 100 years she'll just return to normal and everything will be fine. I like that, like, no, it's conditional, like true love's kiss will have to come along or else she'll be asleep, basically dead forever, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? I think that's an improvement. I
Well,
think
yeah,
that's
and I mean,
great.
like, especially because we've already set up the conflict, the hero and the conflict, right? Like we've set up the rescuer. He's the one who was giving her a like, I'm not so sure about this look, right? Like we
Hmm.
got that already. And then we've got what he's gonna need to do by the end of it, and we know what our payoff is gonna be. But we're
Yes.
gonna be enjoying the journey of how we get there, right? Like
Yes.
we're not going to try to subvert any expectations. This is going to be a very straightforward thing. Prince Philip is going to save the day. But how? That's what we're
But
watching to find
how?
out. But
Yes.
how?
Exactly. And what are they going to do in the meantime in order to try and avoid this fate in the first place, right? And the other thing I think is really wise in terms of how our boy Penner adapted this is that he makes Prince Philip, the prince who's going to save the day, someone who's involved in the story from the very beginning. Because
Yeah.
in all the other versions, she actually just does fall asleep for 100 years. In fact, the whole kingdom does, and it's an outside prince who saves the day. Who is, if we imagine, like he couldn't have been involved in the story from the beginning because he wouldn't have been born yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so by changing the 100 years to a sort of conditional whenever True Love's Kiss arrives, you can bring Prince Philip into the story from the very beginning. And I like what they do here. There's actually a surprising number of similarities to The Lion King, the more I think about it. But they're destined to be wed one day, right? But it's like a Shakespearean comedy of errors in a sense, where like when they do meet, they both think like they're not destined for each other because he assumes that she's the peasant girl and like they like she assumes that she's a peasant and that he's a prince, like there's a miscommunication there about what their actual identity is, what their actual station is in life. And so like I don't know, it's really interesting and I really like the way we can involve him all the way through, kind of like the change that happens with Snow White, where she meets the prince that she will eventually fall in love with before she's kicked out by the evil queen. You know what I mean? So it's the same sort of thing where we try to bring him into the story sooner to make it more satisfying when he eventually returns. I think it's a really strong choice.
Yep. I agree. Sir Marhouse asks, "Do you think Philip and Aurora fall within Romeo and Juliet laws?" Another thing to clarify for people, like I said earlier, everyone was drunk at this point in history, right? Law had not been invented or even conceptualized. You could just
Yeah,
do
see,
fucking whatever you wanted, and pretty much nobody was gonna stop you. They were just like, well, I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
that's
They
fine.
called they called it the Dark Ages for a region
Yeah.
from our house.
So
um,
Merriweather adds this addendum to the curse of Maleficent. She adds a little 13th Amendment to it, fixing the original sin of history, and she they
sorry, it's just
then
it's fun to rage bait on this on this particular one. Anyway, sorry, you were saying. Go ahead.
yeah, so she adds her addendum to the curse, and then they plot. They meet in secret. And I really like what they end up. They make themselves tiny and go into this like tabernacle, basically,
Yes.
to talk about how what they're going to do to stop the curse, because they're not just leaving it as well, we've amended it as best as we can. Is there anything we can do to fix this and make sure that this
Yeah.
goes well? And what they end up deciding is that if they disguise themselves as regular peasant women and take her out into the woods and just sort of hide out there, then Maleficent won't know where she is. They won't be able to find her. She won't be able to find her, and she'll be able to grow up free of worry for 16 years, and then they can bring her back on the evening of her 16th birthday, and they'll basically run out the clock on Maleficent. Yeah,
Yeah.
the curse will expire, um, and it not a terrible plan.
Yeah, well, I think there's something really interesting specifically how it's framed, right? You know, we're trying to trick Maleficent and deceive her, and so
Yeah,
the way to do that is to do it by something she would never conceive of or predict, and that's a sort of selfless altruism because she's kind of
yeah, oh yeah,
incapable of
exactly.
seeing the possibility of that, or seeing the good in other people, because she's so hateful and resentful and everything like that. So the way we're going to trick her is we're going to raise her ourselves in the woods. And how are we going to hide from her? By giving up magic entirely, something that Maleficent would never believe us capable of doing, a sacrifice for the sake of this, of protecting this girl she'll never even conceive of, because she is so devoid of selflessness. I
Yep,
think that's really, really cool. I
I
think that's
love
such a
that.
great choice, because it could be as simple as, oh, we're going to hide her in the woods. She won't expect, also there's something in the sacrifice of her nobility, by like she has to become a peasant. Obviously, it's without her choice, but narratively speaking, she has to sort of give up the cushy life she would have as a princess in order to protect her, right? So there's a sacrifice there that the sort of greedy and rather vicious Queen Maleficent wouldn't be capable of imagining, and that's how they trick her. I think that's really cool. I think it's a really strong
Yeah,
choice. Yeah.
yeah, and it almost works.
And it almost works. Before we get any further, I do want to briefly mention we're not going to. There's a lot of great dialogue writing in this movie, especially stuff that has been written, in verse, essentially, which is great because it's all basically been invented for this movie. Because there are enough significant changes here, especially the one I'm about to mention in terms of Merryweather's her gift, so that they wrote this in verse. Like there's plenty of like poetry throughout the movie and rhyme that really helps elevate it in general. I
Yeah,
just
I
think the
kind of
whole
love
thing.
that actually, the way that
Oh,
they
I love it too. So here's one in particular. This is Merryweather's gift. She says, "Sweet princess, if through this wicked witch's trick a spindle should your finger prick, a ray of hope there still may be in this, the gift I give at thee. Not in death, but just in sleep, the fateful prophecy you'll keep, and from this slumber you shall wake, when true love's kiss the spell shall break." And there's a lot of that throughout this movie
I
that
mean,
we
one of my
probably won't.
favorites
Go ahead.
is at the end, right, with the sword of truth. Sword of truth, fly swift and sure, that evil die and good endure.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great, man. Like the way that they
yeah.
incorporate it in there.
That is one of the most satisfying moments in any of the Disney movies we've watched so far. when he throws, like, when they say that and throw the sword and it kills the dragon. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other word for it. It's just so great and so satisfying. Ugh. Yeah, and so a lot of the poetry in this is quite delightful. We wanted the chance to point it all out, but it really is spectacular stuff.
Yeah, Georgius Rex also mentions it's a lot like Gandalf saying it would never enter Sauron's dreams, that we should seek to destroy the ring rather than to use it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
same idea. The way of tricking evil is to be good in a way that they can't conceive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Great. There's a lot of great stuff in this, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's subtle, but it's not in a bad way. It's like rather straightforward, but there's a lot of great stuff about virtue in this movie and a lot of these old fairy tales in general that I just feel like so much of our stories are just completely devoid of.
It feels
You know what I mean?
subtle because it's not as prolific anymore as it used to
Yeah.
be. I think
Yeah.
that's something.
Even when we get good heroic stories, let's just say superhero movies and pop culture, I feel like there's often not a lot of actual talk about virtue in them. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, that's because
it's
we
just,
live in a time where virtue is, it fluctuates, right? There is no defining virtue.
oh, it's fluid, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's like a.
Well, yeah. I mean, the amount of the amount of discussions that I've had with people from be it film school or at the office about whether or not like you can consider something good because of cultural relativism, right? Where like something might be
Yeah.
considered good in one culture that is not considered good in yours,
Mhm.
where it's like, a lot of these stories came from wildly different societies and cultures, and
Yeah.
there's a reason that they stand
Yeah.
the test of time, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I don't know, man. It's so nice rewatching these movies to like get a little taste of that because we're in a desert of that in our culture at the moment, I would argue. And so it's very refreshing. Um Anywho, let's see. So she gives her final gift, and then the king immediately is like, well, better destroy all the spindles in the land. And then they, come up with their plan to try and deceive Maleficent by hiding in the woods. There's a fun little gag where we find out that all of Maleficent's little animal henchmen are completely retarded, except for the crow. So she's like it's been 16 years. We've fast forward 16 years. They still have not found her, and oh, there's a bird that just landed on my window. Hello, bird. Oh, there it goes. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
get out of here. This is my house.
no, we like the bird. We like the bird. Um, so it's been 16 years, and they still haven't found her. Maleficent is obviously very upset about this. So she talks to her little henchman. It's like, have you even been looking for her? It's like, oh yeah, we've been looking for her. Like we've checked every cradle, and she's like, what? Like, yeah, we checked
say
every
that again.
cradle.
Yeah, we've been looking everywhere. We have for 16 years. We have not found a baby that looks the way you described.
And she's like, holy shit. I'm
This is
surrounded
why
by
I should.
idiots.
This is why I should ask for that. On job applications, that like, do you have a disability? I should ask that question. This is where that came from. Actually, it's where
Well,
it
this is why she
originated.
reminds me so much of Scar. Like, or there's so much of Scar in her because all her henchmen are retarded, just like the hyenas. He's like, I'm surrounded by idiots. It's the same thing. It's great. Anyway, so she's like, holy shit, they still think they're looking for a baby. No wonder they haven't found it after 16 years. Jesus Christ.
J.
And so
Jameson, incompetent gooners. Exactly.
yeah, exactly. And so she's like, all right, Crow, you're the only one here that isn't a complete and utter moron. Go find this 16-year-old for me, please.
Please, for the love of God, they've been running out the clock on us this whole time.
We're nearing the end. We're nearing the prophesied time if we don't find her soon. And I like the idea, quite like the evil queen in Snow White, that she's obsessed with this. Like she can't move on. The idea of this getting away from her, or like her, prophecy, her curse not coming true, just like it fills her every waking moment. There's even a line later in the movie when when she thinks she's finally won, that she's like, for the first time in 16 years, I'll actually sleep well tonight. I just like that she just can't let it go. The idea that the sort of the evil and the demonic are like obsessive is a really fun trope that shows up in a lot of fairy tales. I'm
Yes.
big
Yeah.
fan.
A
So,
couple things I want to respond to real quick in the chat. Nick Sabansky says that horse looks like the one from Tangled. It sure does, actually. I think that
mhm.
Tangled borrowed that design choice um, very obviously. And I think that in doing that, they evoke something. They managed to do something similar to what people in the chat earlier were mentioning Shrek does, right? Where they do sort of subvert the ideas of the original fairy tales. Um, you know, in Flynn Rider getting the noble horse, is something of a subversion, but it works very well. I think Tangled is we might get to that one on in this series because technically, even though it's not 2D, it is a Disney animated feature, and I think that that's one of the last good ones that they produced before they started to fall into the trap of chasing top 40 hits with Let It Go. Um, but yeah, I think that they managed to evoke that very well in Tangled and do a subversion of the story that still feels true to the themes of goodness and self-sacrifice and virtue and the pursuit of virtue and all of that. So that's a good notification or a good observation, I should say. Yeah, another downgrade in Maleficent is that the crow Diablo is just a dude who they trapped as a crow because I guess they hate animal characters or something like that. The Maleficent has that Harry Potter syndrome of being like, oh yeah, well actually I bet you J.K. Rowling took it from Maleficent in that Fantastic Beasts movie where she was like, oh yeah, and by the way, Voldemort's snake, that was actually an Asian woman who was cursed to become a snake. Like, can't he just be evil and like have a snake? Like it's literally Satan. It's literally
Yeah.
yeah, but no, it was actually a tortured and abused Asian woman who was an animagus, but
Stop
yeah,
Asian hate. That's what I say.
yeah, isn't it? Well, yeah, yeah, stop it. Yeah,
Don't
Neville
ask who's
Longbottom.
doing the Asian hate, by
Yeah,
the way.
don't ask. Yeah, don't ask that. Neville Longbottom. That's who's doing the Asian hate.
Yeah, that sounds like a downgrade. Making the crow, someone just an evil guy who was transformed. Like, why can't she just have power over the animals, but
I
in
don't
like
even
an
think it's
evil
an evil
way?
guy. I think it's like a her friend who's like cursed to be a
Oh,
crow, like Tobias from
wait,
Animorphs.
Who cursed him?
I don't remember. I
It wasn't
really
Maleficent.
I doubt it.
She just
Given the way that movie goes, I would say I very strongly doubt it.
what a shame.
Yeah,
Anywho, now, her 16th birthday is fast approaching. And first, well, actually, we're introduced to her finally. 16-year-old Aurora, as she will be for most of the rest of the movie, in a little cottage in the woods, a lot like Snow White, and she has a beautiful singing voice. Like, I love the little song she sings to herself. Shout out to Mary Costa, who does the speaking and singing voice for Sleeping Beauty in this movie.
killed it.
Absolutely killed it. Just a beautiful kind of classical singing voice. Very pretty, very reminiscent of Snow White in that regard as well. And so they want to, do something nice for her because her birthday's coming up and she's going to be, return to her rightful place as a princess and then, be betrothed to Prince Philip and everything like that. She does not know any of this. She's been raised her whole life to think she's just a little peasant girl that lives in the woods with three strange old women.
Yes. Yeah. She's
Normal
very on
stuff.
like look, she's never questioned it. All love is love.
Mhm.
She's just in on board for the ride. She's having a good time.
Yeah, exactly. And she's got a little bit of Snow White in that, like, she's a little naive, perhaps, but she's longing for bigger and grander things. She gets a little song later where she sings about how much she's longing for true love and everything like that because she's been sort of trapped here in the woods. The three fairies who have lost their wings and their magic, but like they're nice to her and everything. They try to do the best she can, but she laments that they don't want her to see anybody and everything like that. She doesn't know that she's being protected from Maleficent and all that sort of fun stuff. So they sent her off on a chore, and meanwhile they're like, let's do something nice for her. Let's make her a nice, pretty, fancy cake and make her a nice dress for when she returns to the kingdom. But they're like, well, we can't use magic, right? So we have to do it the old-fashioned way. And but they don't know how to do things the old-fashioned way, really. Especially not make fancy cakes and build, beautiful dresses. Maybe they've learned a little bit about how to mend clothes and stuff like that, mend ordinary clothes and cook ordinary meals. But all the sort of fancy royal stuff, they're like, oh, they're way in over their heads. And there's a lot of great comedy in this sequence. One of my favorite little gags is when I believe it's, yes, Fauna. Wait, which one's the green one? Fauna?
I think that's Fauna. Yeah.
Yeah, Fauna. She's trying to make a cake, right? And she's looking at a recipe and she's like, okay, fold in the eggs. Fold. And so she takes the eggs and puts it in the dough, but she doesn't crack the eggs. She just leaves them whole and then folds the dough over top of them and like smushes them down. And you hear the eggshells cracking. She's like, oh, wait. That's not how you're supposed to do it. And then when we cut back to Flora and Merryweather, they're trying to build a dress, but they're using the short, chubby Merryweather as like the mannequin
model,
essentially.
yeah.
Yeah, and she's like this, this looks terrible, and she's like, well, that's because it's on you, dear. It's like, oh, geez,
Damn,
sassy,
got him.
got her ass. Yep. There's another funny thing later when we finally see the cake and it's like it's looping over and it's about to fall over at any second. All the icing
She holds it up with
off.
like a broom, right? Like she sticks a
Yeah,
broom handle.
She puts candles on it and everything, but she's like holding it up with a broom and it's sliding everywhere. And then she goes, "Oh, it'll look even better once I bake it." Yeah, it is. She
It's
put
good,
icing
babe.
and everything on it
I love this scene.
before she
Yeah.
even baked it. It's fun. There's a lot of fun stuff in there. It's legitimately funnier than The Naked Gun was, this movie. And I'm not being sarcastic. There's plenty of great stuff. So then she's wandering through the woods and she's singing a little song. All the animals are gathering around her like they did for Snow White because she's just that beautiful and charming and all that sort of fun stuff. She's singing a little song. There's a fun little gag where she's talking to an owl, and the owl obviously can only say who, but the conversation works itself out that that's actually an appropriate question to ask her at several moments, several points in the conversation. It's fun. I like it. And she's talking about I wish I could meet someone. And then she's like, you know what? I actually have met someone. She sings a little song about it, and we learned that it was only in a dream that she met her true love. But then,
The
lo and
singing
behold,
voice. Oh my goodness. Who does that capture the attention of? Who's riding
yes,
through the woods on his horse from Tangled?
his noble steed is Prince Philip. Happens to be wandering through the woods and hears the singing of a beautiful maiden. He's like, gotta go check that out. And so he does. And there's a fun little gag where he's like trying to, ride through the woods to find her, and then the horse jumps over a log and like sends him into a tree branch and like knocks him into the water. So fun little physical comedy stuff like that help pad the runtime a little bit and stretch it out because it is a rather simple story. It's fun. I like it. It's good stuff. It doesn't feel time wasty. It just feels like a nice little, little bit of a breather between the big story beats. If that makes sense. I don't mean to imply that I think it's actually filler in a bad way, but there's fun little gags. And then eventually she's singing and talking. Oh, there's a fun little gag where um, they find the prince's cloak and hat. And so all the animals grab it and like sort of form a prince for her to dance with, made out of animals, wearing the Prince Philip cloak and everything like that. That's pretty fun. The
Yeah.
owl, the main one, and the
Because
squirrels
they
and the
steal his
birds are
clothes,
holding up.
yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good classic Disney, animals doing cutesy things. You love to see it. Eventually,
Trying to
he
find
shows
somebody
up.
asked if this is a rotoscoped scene, and I'm trying to find if it was. I can't find any specific.
Which scene in particular?
I think the like the dancing scene with her and Prince Philip. I can't Can't find
Maybe.
anything that
I mean,
says
it
whether or not it
looks
is.
very believable. I wouldn't be surprised if they filmed a scene of two people dancing and then used that as the inspiration. I don't know if they were just, looked at that as a reference or they actually rotoscoped it, but it's pretty convincing stuff,
Yeah.
I would say.
There is a couple interesting notes here that apparently the good fairies were originally intended to rule the domains indicated by their names. So Flora was in charge of flowers and plants. Fauna would be
Mm,
overseeing animals and birds. Merryweather would control the climate. But he discarded the idea of overtly showing that in favor of just symbolically including it in their names, which is, I
interesting.
think, yeah, an interesting choice.
Yeah, I mean, the connection is there either
Yeah.
way. I think it maybe would complicate things slightly if they sort of like renounced their magic for
Yeah, for
years.
16 years, and then like it's just like, we're just gonna leave them all up to leave them to
Yeah,
their own devices for a bit. They can do without me for 16 years. That'll be fine.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's just a symbolic association. It's just a little cleaner and easier to work with. Same with Maleficent, being cloaked in the imagery of death, but we never actually say that like she controls death or anything like that in a way
yeah.
that might complicate things a little bit narratively. But yes, he shows up. Prince Philip does, sees her dancing with animals in his cloak, and is like, "Mind if I step in?" And she's like, "Holy shit, who are you?"
Oh my god.
Oh, I'm trying to remember exactly what he says there. I want to pull it up because it's really funny. Um, all right, you talk for a second while I find it.
Yeah, sure. Wasserman says, "Hot take. I used to think this song was too good for such a cheap-looking cartoon. So maybe it's a classic piece. This was before I knew it was Disney." That's funny. That's really funny. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know this. I don't think this doesn't look particularly cheap to me, especially given the time period. But I can see where you're coming from. Like I think that makes some measure
The
of sense.
flatness
Flatness,
does
yeah,
is what makes it doesn't actually look cheap, I would argue, but it does make it look a bit more like a cartoon, if that makes sense. I
yeah,
mean, technically these are all cartoons, but what you associate with cartoons in your head tends to be more on the cheaper side things.
yeah. The first man she's ever seen shows up.
Mm.
She's just like, "Whoa, hi there." Yeah, you found
um,
you found what you were looking for.
I'm almost there. Do, 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 do. She's singing a song. Oh, then he joins in the singing as well, which is nice. Um, it's like hold on. Why can't I fucking find where the song actually starts? Oh, he just joins in with the dancing and starts singing the song. Um, and she kind of freaks out at first, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm awfully sorry. I didn't mean to frighten you." And she's like, "Oh, it wasn't that. It's just you're a." He's like, "A stranger," and she's like, "Mm-hmm. But don't you remember we've met before?" She's
Yeah.
like, "We have," and he's like, "Of course. You said so yourself. Once upon a dream." It's like, "Oh man, guy's got Riz, as the kids would say." He's just like, "It's me, the man of your dreams." We it's just like, that's like, all right, he's got it. And then he at first she's like, "I don't know about this. You're literally the first man I've ever seen in my life, and you're a stranger in the woods and all that." But then he proves that if you can sing and you can dance, that you can, charm anyone. And so he just keeps singing the song, and they're waltzing and stuff. It's great. Nice little romantic moment. He wins her over. And they sing a little
Yeah.
song. It's great.
Wasserman explains a little bit the Saturday morning Hanna-Barbera cartoon thing. So the static backgrounds absolutely are add to that because that's sort of
Mhm.
their bread and butter. Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones for sure. The backgrounds that just recycle, like they're on a treadmill. Yeah.
But there's also some funny dialogue when she like after they have their little romantic moment. Um, yeah, like there's like they have their she has his head resting on his shoulder, and then he goes, "Who are you?" It's just like a really after they have this big long dancing thing. He's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, who are you? What's your name?" She says, oh, my name, why, it's she's like, uh-oh, because she's been told not to tell anyone, right? She's like, oh, I can't, goodbye, and she runs away. He's like, but when will I see you again? She goes, oh, never. Like, never. He's like, well, maybe someday. He's like, when? Tomorrow? She's like, oh no, this evening. Like, the way she turns so quickly is pretty funny.
Yeah.
There, I feel like they actually do communicate pretty well that she is only like 16. You know what I mean? She feels young in like in a very believable way in the way she
Yes.
talks
Yeah.
and carries herself. Yeah. And she says, "Oh, at the cottage in the glen." So they've had their little meet cute now, but he thinks that she is a peasant girl, and obviously she knows that he's a prince, but she obviously believes herself to just be a peasant girl. So there's something of the sort of like it'll never work sort of thing because when she comes back, well, she has found that the fairies have given up on trying to do things the old-fashioned way because they're just no good at it. The dress they made is a hideous monstrosity that looks like it came out of the substance. And the cake similarly has a sort of
The cake
Cronenberg esque.
looks basically like what she ends up looking like at the end of the substance.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, and they're
And
like,
so they
"Oh
said, well,
God, we can't release this. This looks like shit."
and they're like,
Advice that I wish the producers of the substance had taken.
That's good. Anyway, so they grab their wands and like, we got to do it right. We got to do right by Briar Rose, by Aurora. So they're gonna make her a nice dress with magic. They're gonna make her a nice cake with magic. But of course, they close all the doors and draw all the shades and everything like that to try and hide the magic so they're not caught. But they get a little carried away in an argument over what color the dress should be, and they're shooting their little beams like they're in Harry Potter at the dress to change it back and forth from pink and blue. Obviously, Meriwether, who is blue herself, wants it to be blue, and Flora wants it to be pink. And they're throwing these little spell beams back and forth at the dress and causing such a commotion that you can see the light emanating out of the chimney, which they forgot to close or they didn't think to close. And so the one thing that they missed and that they didn't account for is their undoing because the crow who is in search of the girl happens to be flying by and from over the trees can see the light emanating from those spells from the chimney in the cottage. And when he goes to inspect the scene, he finds exactly what they were trying to hide. Oh no! Now what's going to happen? I feel like there's something really nice about like they try to take every precaution to hide the magic, but then they forget something, right? That's
Yeah,
something that shows up a lot in this movie.
Jay Jameson points out actually it's their personal dispute over something arguably quite small, blue versus pink, right? Is
Yeah.
is this carelessness over that dispute is what gets them caught. Yeah,
Yes, and it's also the like not thinking of everything because you can't think of everything. Like it's kind of like a running theme through the story. Like the
yeah,
thing you try to ignore, the thing you try, like you think you can control everything, but there's always a little remainder. There's always a little something you can't account for. You know what I mean?
yeah. Typical
Just with this.
medieval story: women squabbling ruins everything. Yeah.
Yes. Um. And so, Aurora returns to the cottage, and they're like, "Hey, by the way, here's a pretty dress and a pretty cake because actually, it turns out that you're a princess and you're betrothed to be married to a prince, and we got to send you back and everything." And she is upset about this, not particularly because she doesn't want to be a princess or anything, but because she's learning she's actually betrothed to be wed to someone else because she found true love. It was the
Yeah.
first guy she ever met, but he
For-
was pretty damn charming. We'll give him that. Um, she doesn't have many things to compare him to, but he's up there. He's a handsome guy. She lucked out, you could say. And she's upset that she won't be able to marry him. So that's like the sort of Shakespearean comedy of errors type thing, misunderstandings, and you know, it's nice, it's fun, I like it. So she's a little sad about that, and so then we cut to the two kings, and why don't you describe the scene, Hugh? You said you liked it a lot.
Oh well, they're drinking buddies. They're having a good time. They're like, oh, thank God, it's been 16 years. There's no way that a bunch of women blind firing wands at each other is gonna fuck this up for us. It's finally gonna happen. Our kids are gonna get married. We are all set here. And they have an argument because they're drinking, and Hubert is particularly belligerent when he drinks. Yeah, I can relate.
Does it sound familiar, Hubert?
Just two bros
I know
chilling.
it isn't. I know it isn't, but I do like to imagine that Hugh comes from Hubert because I like calling you Hubert. It's fun.
Everybody, yeah, everybody does.
It's fun for me.
To be fair, if it was Hubert, then maybe that line in Knives Out about Hugh did this wouldn't piss me off so much. The curse that I bear.
Mm.
Yeah, so they have a little comedy scene where they get in a fight because Hubert thinks that Stefan has insulted Philip by
Well,
saying.
yeah, by implying that, like, well, you have to consider that, she won't have heard about any of this, so this
Yeah,
might all be a little overwhelming for her when she gets back. Because normally they're said to be betrothed, but she would have been hearing about this her whole life,
and
and
they
they would
would
have
have
had
they would
plenty.
have known each other because the kings are
Exactly,
buddies. So
exactly.
yeah,
It would have been a bit more like The Lion King in that respect.
yeah. And Hubert is pissed about this. Is like, are you saying that my son is not hot enough to be to be her like to capture her by in one glance? I'm
Mhm.
gonna beat you with this fish, you fucker.
They get
Um,
into a little fight, and then immediately after getting into the fight, they're like, "What the hell are we fighting about? We're bros." And so
yeah,
they go
we're
back to
bros. Let me
hugging.
let me pour some more wine for you, bud.
Yeah.
And they have a line where he says like, "Oh, that glass was all foam," and I'm like, "No, it wasn't. It was wine." That's literally literally not possible. Just but go ahead, keep drinking. So this is like really where we get to see the truths of masculine friendship. Um,
Yeah.
there's bickering. Yeah, there's bickering. There's insults. You call your buddy's son. You call your buddy's son gay, and then you get hit by a fish. And you laugh about it after, and that's just how it goes. That's that's the way
Mhm.
of the world, and especially the medievals, they understood that very well.
There's a fun little gag where one of their little entertainers who has a lute is getting really, really drunk while all this is happening, and eventually he sort of passes out under the table and, like, gets his head stuck inside of the lute.
Yeah.
And, like, the noises he make are, like, affecting they sound especially weird because of the musical instrument his head is inside of. It's a funny little gag, and there's a little payoff for the gag later that I quite liked that I did not think would be like a payoff. I did not expect this to be set up and payoff type stuff, but it's really quite fun when we get to it. I will mention it. So, Prince Philip arrives, you know, ahead of this occasion, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, guess what? I met the most beautiful girl, and I'm going to marry her. She's a peasant girl." And the dad's like, "The fuck you are? You're supposed to marry this princess." And he's like, "Nope, I found my true love, and she's a little peasant woman that lives in the woods."
You can't marry a peasant woman. You're a prince. He goes, "Oh, come on, Dad. It's the 16th century. Times are changing."
I think
That
it's
joke is
it's
so good.
14th, but yes,
14th, yeah, it's
which
the
is quite
14th
a
century,
funny
Dad.
joke.
Really
It's a
funny.
fun joke.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's like it's the 14th century. Come on,
It's the
I'm gonna marry
14th
who I
century.
want.
Get your head out of your ass.
Yeah,
We're
and then
inventing
he's
laws now, okay? Like things, we're inventing laws. We've stopped shagging sheep. Things are going great. Like let's
yeah,
keep this progressive train moving.
yeah. God, get with the times, Dad. And so, and he's like, "Oh shit, how am I gonna tell King Stefan?" So he's dreading how he's going to tell his friend that his son, for whatever reason, wants to slum it in the woods. This
with
peasant
some with
girl.
some busty peasant broad. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's not sure how he's going to do this. Meanwhile, Prince Philip goes riding out to the woods to go find her, claim her, all that sort of stuff. And he will not find her, obviously, because the fairies are bringing
Yeah, they're bringing her
Aurora.
in the opposite direction.
Yeah, they're sneaking
Under
in the
yeah.
back door
Now
because
they've
they got
returned to sneaking.
yes. And so they bring her in. They bring her in through the back entrance. They bring her up the windy stairs and everything. They show her all the nice things. going to be hers, but she's still sad about it because she's not going to marry who she thought she was going to marry. She gets her little crown, but she has a little cry because she's upset. While she's there, she's slumped over on this very, very nice, little drawer with a little mirror in front of it in her lavish new home. But she's heartbroken. Then we do a really, really cool spooky sequence where Maleficent sneaks in using her magic. And there's like this
Yeah.
great little musical motif that plays. It's like of like her casting this spell. Like she emerges in the green fire in her room and everything, and then there's like this da da da. It's like some creepy thing like that. I don't know if those are the exact notes, but it's like that. And she casts her spell
It's
on
like a
Aurora.
slightly off, like I don't know
Is it,
music theory terms, but it sounds very similar to like if you were to do a like slightly off version of Once Upon a Dream when it's happening, like it's out of key or like it's in like a minor key comparatively or something like that. I'm not
yeah,
100% sure, but it sounds very similar, but in an evil, like, so it's kind of like the opposite of, the good song, right? Which I really like that, the
it's
way that.
ba da dum. Like, ooh, that's pretty dissonant. That's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
I like it.
Another interesting note about this one, right, is that they did originally intend to have Maleficent show up and manipulate her, like it happens in the original story, as like the old woman who is like, "Hey, why don't you come and give it a try? Doesn't this look fun? Aren't you just naturally coded to want to sew as a woman? Doesn't it just appeal to your base instincts?" They decided not to do that, and they went with the idea that an eerie, haunting presentation of a victim powerless in the hands of evil would be a more potent choice for what they were.
What's interesting, I think either could work, obviously, because that's basically the original is more like what they do in Snow White, right? That she's rather naive, and then this witch comes to present her with the apple that's going to make all her dreams come true and sort of tricks her that way, right?
Yeah.
But in this, it's like she actually casts an evil spell on her, and she sort of gets this like her eyes glaze over, and she's kind of like walking like a zombie, which is pretty creepy. I like it.
Yes. Yeah.
I like, and it kind of follows on her in like a sort of moment of despair and heartbreak. That she's the idea kind of being that she's vulnerable, right? And then she's preyed upon by this evil spell, and it's basically like a little mind control sort of thing. I like that. I think it works for this movie.
Yeah, now it's Georgius Rex is saying that it would have been an improvement. He thinks the mind control thing is really bad. I don't know if I think it's really
Really
bad.
bad.
I
I don't
can
think so.
understand being a little bit annoyed that it sort of takes agency away from Aurora, right? But so one way that you might have been able to do it is if you kind of have Aurora as having been the one who, since she's not magic, she sort of learned to do the cleaning and the sewing and whatnot in the cottage. And then,
Mhm.
she's told she's a princess. She doesn't have to do that kind of thing anymore. She, goes and wanders through the castle, and then she finds like it's an unfamiliar landscape. She doesn't know what she's getting into, and then she finds this sewing machine. Although it wouldn't make a lot of sense because the whole point was that they wanted to keep her away from sewing needles, right? Because if she pricks
Yeah.
her finger on it, she's gonna fucking die. Or like fall asleep. So you could maybe have it be that there's like a connection to her more humble origins. But I don't mind the hypnosis. I think it's creepy and effective and
Yeah.
symbolically very strong.
I don't feel like
Even
it's
if
the kind
logically it's not. Maybe.
I think it works logically. I just think like what you don't get is something more active in terms of her agency in this moment, like if she was being like tricked and she made a choice or something like that. But it's not like the movie has thus far or will in the future rely super hard on her agency specifically,
Yeah.
for the sake of the narrative. So it doesn't feel like, oh, we had this story where everything was relying on her making choices and then she's robbed of choice in this moment. It's not really what the story's
Yeah.
been like thus far. So it doesn't feel like we lose a whole lot by having her being put under a spell in this moment. And I do like the implication that she's at like a low point and she's like vulnerable, if you will.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
know. I like it.
I think it works well enough.
Yeah, I don't think I really. I don't know. I don't think it's a problem personally. If you wanted to change it up, there are options, but I think that this works fine.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I think it's really creepy the way it's handled. I think it's
Yeah,
quite effective, right? And I like the way like her eyes and face look, like she's just kind of blank. It's a creepy image, and there's like that sort of green glow cast on everything under Maleficent's little spell here. Pretty effective. And so she's led up into the highest tower, where I think maybe what could help this a little bit if the spindle was real, like Maleficent had like stashed it up here or something like that, because Maleficent just makes a little spinning wheel and a spindle out of magic. You know what I mean? It's just kind of
yeah,
I don't know. There's something slightly less interesting about that, as opposed to like if there was one left here or something like that that no one had found or something like that, or maybe Maleficent herself had held on to one or something like that. I don't know. There's a way to do it. But anyway, using her magic, she causes Sleeping Beauty to prick her finger and fall dead to the ground. And Maleficent's like, "Gotcha, bitch. I told you I'd win. Fuckers, I'm out." And then she disappears. you know?
but have you considered what if Maleficent offered Aurora a box of Dunkin' Donuts, and when she reached in to grab a cruller, it's revealed there was a spinning wheel underneath, and she got her.
Well, if she was if she was trying to trick Ben Affleck, that's how you would do it, I think,
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh no, with Ben Affleck, if you were trying to trick him, you would tell him, "Hey, Matt Damon's in the room," and he would just automatically reach for the first phallically shaped thing that he could find and grab a. He would
What are
grab
you
the
trying
spinning
to
wheel.
say, Hugh?
I'm not implying anything that hasn't already been implied.
So, yeah, so everyone's celebrating outside because they think, the time has finally come and everything like that. And the fairies realize, oh shit, she is going to now be asleep in a coma for the interminable future. So, what are we going to do? They're all very sad about it, as you might expect. And they, can't decide at first, like how they're going to tell the king. The Flora says, well, I guess we just won't tell anyone. We'll put everyone to sleep. We'll put the whole kingdom to sleep. That way, to spare them of the heartbreak of losing this beautiful princess until the curse can be lifted, and then everything will resume as normal, sort of thing. So that's what they do. They close her up in the tower, and then there's a nice kind of melancholy, a little spooky sequence of them like turning into like sparkles and dust kind of floating over everything and lulling everyone to sleep, casting their little spell over the whole kingdom. And it's a nice little sequence, like with the music and the animation. Everything gets that sort of like greenish glow, as everyone's being lulled into sleep. There's the setup and payoff that I mentioned earlier. There's a fun little gag where they're putting everyone to sleep, but they missed the drunkard under the table from earlier because they just assumed he already was asleep. So he wakes up and is like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh shit, we forgot him." And so they get him too. It's a nice little payoff to that joke. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Putting the entire kingdom to sleep to cover up their failure is a choice for sure, is what J. Jameson says. It's kind of funny. Um, but yeah, I like the symbolism, right? That like the light
Yes.
has been taken from the kingdom, right? Aurora
Yeah.
is, symbolizes the dawn and light, and so kingdom then falls asleep until the light is returned.
Yeah.
They'll be
And
suspended.
this is present in a lot of the older versions as well, where there's an idea that, like, well, the king would then grow up and then die without ever seeing his daughter back. So if he was asleep as well, he could be spared that torment. Like everything would be put on pause, if you will,
Yeah.
so that no one actually has to lose her, is the idea. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think if you think about it more like a fairy tale, think it makes a lot of intuitive and symbolic sense.
Well, yeah, I think
I
this might be the epitome of the Disney fairy tale ones for me. I think just based on the way it's like it's all very well rounded, right? And it incorporates all the aspects of them into a like and basically into a knight's tale sort of thing, like you know, Saint George and the Dragon kind of story, right?
medieval romance,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the phrase, medieval. Yeah. So the fairies fly off to Maleficent's castle to rescue the prince who's being held prisoner. She has this really great moment, right, where she tells him like, oh, "I'm gonna let you go. I'll let you go and wake her up in 100 years when you're old and your dick don't work no more, and then you can go. Right? You're gonna die a virgin. You're gonna live a perpetual virgin in my castle, and then when it's too late essentially for you to do much of anything about it, I'll let you go and you can
Mhm.
head out there and haha, then you can fulfill your destiny. Won't that be great, right? Which is, I
Yeah.
think, a really
Pretty cruel.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, she takes some glee in it. Also, to the point about, the fairies just choosing to do this, I think it is worth remembering that these are fairies, right? And fairies are kind of like they tend to be a bit more morally ambiguous figures and creatures in a lot of myth. That there is something very fairy-like in their decision to just do this, you know what I mean? And cast this little spell, and, like, no one is any like, people are
none
none
the
the wiser
wiser.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah. There is a sort of ambiguity a lot of times to fairies in old stories like this. Um,
but yeah, I mean, like the basically reflecting their position in nature and the natural world, right? How like the natural
yeah.
world is both good and violent and wanton, sort of with it doesn't abide by like singular rule of nature. Like there is no necessary virtue to the natural world.
Or
Yeah,
there's an ambiguity to it, I
yeah.
think is maybe better because there's good
That's
and
probably
bad,
that
right?
is a better word.
So after the whole kingdom sort of being put under this spell, along with Sleeping Beauty, and also like just symbolically, it's a sort of like she sort of represents the whole kingdom. She's the light and joy of the whole kingdom, and so when that's lost, the whole thing falls asleep. You know what I mean? Like when her light is gone, like the light just disappears from the whole kingdom. You know what I mean? So, uh, yes, they capture. I really like the scene where Maleficent actually captures him with all her little minions. That's
Yeah,
it's pretty effective and scary in a good way. So they take her back to the dungeon, like you mentioned. She says that, like, yeah, well, she tells him that, like, that was actually she basically monologues at him in a way that I actually find quite believable from a
because he's
character
chained up, so it's
perspective.
not like he's
Yeah,
gonna be. This isn't Syndrome monologuing to Mister Incredible in
yeah,
it's
and it's good
she's
because I
got
think
him in her power.
she's got him in her power, and she thinks it's all over, and she's taking extra glee and telling him like how this all played out. So it'll torment him and make him suffer even more, like knowing the full weight of everything that happened here. So she tells him the whole story. There's even like a little bit of meta sort of thing, like, oh, like a happy little fairy tale. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
How does she say it? She says it in a really kind of funny meta way. I was like, "Oh, come now, Prince Philip. Why so melancholy? A wondrous future lies before you. You, the destined hero of a charming fairy tale come true." Just like rubbing it in his face, mocking him. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Oh,
She's
so good.
performative and dramatic, and I like that.
Like, come, my pet, let us leave our noble prince with these happy thoughts. A most glorifying day. For the first time in 16 years, I shall sleep well. Yeah, she's getting even more pleasure out of like rubbing it in his face that you know that he's going to fail to do the heroic fairy tale thing. Oh, but then he does, and it's great.
Yes. Wasserman says it's a fairy tale, but the kingdom is robbed of choice whether they want their life to rely on a girl they haven't even seen for more than a decade. Well, you got to understand that in the medieval world, um, people, kingdoms, they didn't matter. They didn't ever. They were practically rocks for all intents and purposes. They were rocks. We didn't care about what they wanted or how they felt about things.
Mm.
But, and some might say we've lost a little bit of something since we've moved on from that and given everybody that right, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I would disagree personally.
What the hell are you talking about at this point?
I have no idea. I'm just yeah,
Yeah.
but like I can kind of understand that. I think maybe from some perspective, but yeah, it is a fairy tale, so it's worth thinking about it more in that lens than it is thinking about it more as like the logical sort of democratic story where every character has their own choices to make and everything is all fleshed out and everything, right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of interesting like old fairy stories are like fairies are like images or like remnants of like old gods of like previous worlds and stuff like that, like like the sort of like fairies being like sort of remnants of old pagan gods in a sort of Christianized Europe, right? And so there's a lot of like speculation narratively about whether fairies are good or bad, whether they can be redeemed or whether they're like all evil or whether there's some good in them. So there's like an ambiguity, there's kind of a question there about like how much the remnants of the old world and its magic and its gods are like redeemable and good, or whether they're all evil and everything, like, or whether they're here to trick us, or stuff like that. So there's obviously fairies in the Disney stuff tend to be a bit more obviously good, except for in this one because it does sort of imply that Maleficent, though she is bigger, she is kind of a kind with the good fairies. She's just the bad one, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a bit more ambiguity here, and obviously I think there's a little bit of moral ambiguity in the fairies' actions and putting everyone to sleep as well. So there's a bit more of that in this than some other Disney movies. Not as much as you would find in a lot of medieval literature, but there's some of it. Um,
So the fairies stage a daring rescue attempt of the prince because this is the only way that they're going to be able to save the kingdom and save Aurora and correct their mistake. And they do a pretty bang up job with their powers. They kind of finally decide like, hey, maybe fuck it, maybe this is what we do. There's a really great scene where Merryweather chases some of the flying monsters. I think, or Diablo, maybe even the Raven. She chases him around, and she has like World War II plane sounds as she flies. Like,
mhm.
I thought that was really fun. And I'm sure people in the audience at the time got a good laugh out of that. And they manage to get to him, and they break his shackles, and they grant
Well,
him.
I love that they use them like welding tools.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? Like, they
They,
don't just break them, they go like like they're like, I don't know, it's pretty funny. It's just fun imagery.
yeah, that's pretty fun. And they give him the sword of truth and the shield of virtue as tools to escape the castle and set the world right, as Jordan Peterson would say, to free the kingdom from the shadows of
So
chaos.
she says, "Wait, Prince Philip, the road to true love may be barriered by still many more dangers, which you alone will have to face. So arm thyself with this enchanted shield of virtue and this mighty sword of truth, for these weapons of righteousness will triumph over evil. Now come, we must hurry."
Yeah,
And then, speaking of, at the very beginning of this stream, we got a comment in the chat talking about the sort of power scaling of the fairies. I think one of the things that's actually pretty consistent in the movie is that they are quite powerful, but not as powerful as Maleficent. So ultimately, he will need to kind of face her not entirely alone, but like to like with their powers. Like they couldn't alone just defeat
they
Maleficent.
can buff him, but they can't
They can
like
muffle,
they
yeah,
can't cast
but
a level 9 fireball. Basically, is like what we're getting at.
yeah, exactly.
They put
So,
they put all their points into alteration magic, not destruction. If you're for
mhm.
the yeah
So as they're fleeing, all the animals that Maleficent has under her control are like shooting arrows and stuff, and the fairies are helping him escape with their little magic. But then like the crow is about to warn Maleficent that they're escaping. Merryweather manages to turn him into like a little gargoyle, but it's too late. Maleficent hears all the commotion, comes out, and is like, "Oh no, they're getting away. My plan is being foiled. What am I going to do? Ah, I know what I'll do. I'll ascend to the top, the highest tower of my castle, and like a storm god cause this giant thunderstorm and then spread my evil over the kingdom." And so she uses her magic to well, she tries to strike Prince Philip with lightning, but she misses. And then she uses her magic to ensnare and encircle the entire kingdom, the good kingdom, and the castle and all that sort of stuff, in just like hundreds and hundreds of feet of like thorns and thickets and all that sort of nasty stuff. So like, haha, no, you can never get to them. And so he arrives at the thorn bushes and he's like chopping his way through and doing the best he can, using his shield and using his sword and all that sort of fun stuff. And the fairies trying to help him wherever they can. He's chopping through, and finally he makes it through. Oh no! But then Maleficent lands on the bridge, coming down in green fire and purple smoke, which just looks fucking awesome. By the way, I don't want to get too involved in this fight yet because you had to leave. There he is.
Yeah,
You're back.
I'm back.
So,
okay, what
Maleficent,
are we fighting about?
Maleficent has arrived on the bridge and is now transforming into a giant dragon.
Oh yeah,
which
and when she
looks
says she's going
so
to unleash
fucking
all
cool.
the powers of hell, right, or all
Yeah.
the evils of hell. What a great line. Yeah, like really just and I remember as a kid that kind of shocked me because I always like hell was a curse word, in my house for the longest time.
Mhm.
So I was like, whoa, damn,
Yeah.
edgy content here. But I think that that's probably the it's very straightforward, right? This is a good versus evil fairy tale story. Philip's shield of virtue has a cross on it, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah. It looks fucking awesome, by the way.
yeah, it's pretty sick. The sword looks
Yeah.
great. I think it's
Yeah.
fantastic, right? So she comes down in a ball of green fire to unleash all the powers of hell, and he has to go up against it with a shield of virtue with a cross and a sword of truth, and that's
Mhm.
what is going to conquer the dragon, the chaos of hell, and
Yeah.
bring and restore light to the kingdom, right? Restore
Well,
the
there's
glory.
something perhaps worth mentioning, I think, is maybe often forgot or overlooked. The dragons themselves are images of chaos because they're like weird hybrid creatures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're winged reptiles. Often they have like claws and stuff like that, or a bit more like a predatory cat. So they're very much an image of chaos and ambiguity and all that sort of stuff like that. And I love the purple and green of the design of this dragon. It's got like these blue eyes
It's
with
so
no
sick, dude.
pupils. It's really cool, man.
It's so sick. This whole ending sequence with the thorns everywhere and the green fire and the purple.
Oh,
Oh,
they're green eyes. They just looked purple in one shot. Sorry, they
it's
looked blue
so
in
fucking
one shot.
cool. I
I
like.
love that I think it's a really strong design choice to like not give the dragon pupils. So it's like you can't see where it's looking. There's something extra evil and unnerving about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's great.
Oh,
But wouldn't
really
it be
cool.
better if she was just a misunderstood heroine who needed to become a dragon to conquer the evil white man of the kingdom?
And so like, he disappears into the thicket and the brush and she's like trying to kill him and everything like that. And he kind of fights her off, hits her pretty hard with the sword a few times. And then she lights the entire, all the dead wood of the thicket on fire. And it's like this glowing green fire. It's pretty hellish and cool. And the fairies are like trying to help him out, but it's clear that they are unmatched. They are, sorry, the opposite. They are outmatched. Is that the word? My brain's not working.
Yeah, outmatched. So,
Yes.
I just saw Kyle R in the chat. The thorns are a metaphor for society, keeping you away from your pogged up autistic Denny's waitress girlfriend. Oh my god. Jordan Peterson would be proud. You should tweet him at
Yes.
that, actually, with a picture of Maleficent. Tweet that at him with a picture of the thorns and Maleficent. Yeah.
while we're here, while we're talking about this fight scene, I feel like we ought to show a shot or two from it on screen because it just looks fucking cool.
Yeah, send
This
them
is a
to me.
great
You got them,
one.
or you want me to pull them up?
I'll get them to you. I'm getting them right now. Do, 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 bop, 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 bop. Um, I'll just send the one because it's pretty good and kind of captures the whole deal. There it goes. Like the yellow fire and so it's like a yellow flame background where like the whole sky has disappeared, but there's like the green flames in the foreground and the purple belly of the dragon. Oh man.
Ah, it's so fun. And like you mentioned earlier, right? Very, very evocative of the Lion King, or at least the
Yes,
Lion
there's
King
a
is
lot of
evocative
the
of that.
DNA of the Lion King in this.
Yeah,
A lot actually. I didn't, I never would have guessed that there was so much of the Lion King in this. But yeah, look, man, that just looks fucking awesome.
it's looks goddamn good.
Yeah. And he's like, "Oh no, he's about to fall into the depths of hell. Oh no."
It
And
breathes fire
so,
and it hits like it's blocked by the shield, but the shield falls away, right? And it looks like
yes,
he's lost.
it looks like he's done for.
And then the fairies come by with the absolute banger of a poem, the Sword of Truth. Hold on, let me make sure I get that right again. We said it earlier.
Now, sword of truth, fly swift and sure, let evil die and good endure.
Goddamn
And
right. And
then,
then he fucking wings the thing, beams it right at her, gets her in the heart.
oh,
Amazing.
there's a great little animation thing where like, like when they're saying that the sword changes color to like a more kind of radiant silver sort of thing with it's sparkling and it's glowing. And then like you said, he beams it right at its heart, stabs it right through the heart, and then it collapses dead to the ground. Ah, billowing purple smoke everywhere. It's
It's
so
so
great.
goddamn good, dude. It
It's
looks
so
so it
satisfying to
looks
like
so good.
hear that absolute banger of a line, and then he just fucking stabs it in the heart with the sword. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh, it's so viscerally satisfying. You know what I mean? In a way that like I don't. It might be one of the most satisfying moments in any of these movies so far.
Yeah.
Really,
I like
it's so
actually,
good.
yeah, it might be.
Yeah, pretty fucking great. And so then he gets his horse back, and then he rides to the kingdom, and there's a whole sort of like sickly green. Well, first thing we see actually in the immediate aftermath of all this is that all the thorns and thickets, they're all sort of fading away and everything's sort of returning to normal. But of course, there is still a sort of green hue over the entire castle and
Yes.
kingdom.
Real
And so
quick,
he rides
Georgius
his
Rex
horse.
says I quibble with some of the shots of Philip just waving the sword around, and J. Jameson says what I'm gonna say. Fair, fair. There are a couple where I'm like, what are you doing, man? What is that? What is that form? But it was a different time.
One thing, hey, first of all, yeah, in terms of the way they can handle action scenes, you know what I mean? There's a little bit of work to be done in sort of developing some of these animation techniques. Like sometimes the action scenes in these movies, they're often pretty brief. They can be a little clumsy sometimes. But one thing I would like to say though is the movie is pretty careful to show us without any words, really, that Prince Philip is terrified of this. Like you can see in
Yes.
a lot of his expression that he is like appropriately like when she turns into a dragon. Oh, let's see if I can find actually a shot of when she turns into the dragon. See if I can find an expression. Ah, damn, I can't because Disney Plus won't let me take screenshots. Anyway, but his face is pure terror, and then he rides forward anyway, which is great. It's just a great little detail. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He's in over his head. I mean, you can see it on screen. Like he's 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 got a lot on his plate here, and he's scared to death, but he's doing the best he can, and ultimately
Yeah, God,
fucking defeats
when
the
she turns
dragon.
into a dragon and like I can only imagine, right? It's like you get the feeling when you watch it, even when you know what's gonna happen. You get the feeling of like, how the hell is he gonna deal with that? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, like it's great. It's and he charges in regardless because he's a brave hero who wields truth and justice in the American way. You know.
Mhm. Yes. And so he arrives, he ascends the tower through like the blue green haze over everything, and he finds Aurora and sleep in the bed. He gives her a kiss, and then she awakens. And then everyone awakens from their slumber, most of them having no idea really why they fell asleep. And there's a great little bit of comedy that comes from that when Stefan and Hubert wake up. Stefan's like, "Ugh, oh, forgive me, Hubert, the wine. Now, you were saying?" And Hubert's like, "I was. Oh,
Oh
yes.
yes.
Well, after all, Stefan, this is the 14th century." It's like, "Yeah, you said that a moment ago." He's like, "Well, to come right to the point, my son Philip says he's going to marry, but then before he can say that Philip intends to marry a peasant girl instead of his fair daughter, they're interrupted by a fanfare, which God, the ending of this movie really got me. Like the music and the imagery and everything, and the sort of cathartic return of everything to its rightful state. It was pretty moving. I liked
Yeah.
it a lot. This has one
Yeah.
of the best endings of all of them, I would say. Or like it could be the best ending of the whole bunch for me. Anyway, so a fanfare announces like a really glorious, like bright, big fanfare, trumpet fanfare enters, announcing the return of Prince Philip and Princess Aurora, and they descend the stairs into the grand hall together. And they're like, "Holy shit, it's Aurora! She's here!" And everyone's all happy and excited about their return. And they come all the way,
Oh
to
my god. Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Yeah.
they embrace. Well, Aurora and her mom embrace, and there's like a little tear there. It's good stuff,
It is
man.
really good. Yeah. And they didn't even it felt like a half a second for them. So they don't even really really realize what.
Well, I mean, it was 16
And
years.
nobody's gonna believe Prince Philip at all. Like that any of this shit happened. They're like, ah, yeah, sure, yeah, you killed a dragon, bud. Yeah, sure. Where's the evidence? There's oh yeah, there were thorns all over the castle, huh? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen to you. It wasn't just a second for them. It was 16 years. All right.
I'm
Yep.
talking about like from when they fell asleep to when they woke up,
I
like half a
know.
second.
I
Yeah.
know. But I was talking about when she embraces her parents and
I would like
the
to
mom
address,
starts
by the way,
crying.
Muggy says, Hugh, every time it was a different time, people back then were knuckle dragging, knuckle dragging PCs, throwing dirt eaters. You can't blame them. That's not true. Some of them weren't French. Okay, that's
Uh,
yeah, but
so they reunite, and then they start dancing a little waltz. And Hubert is slowly realizing that actually the peasant girl was her the whole time. He's a little late on like realizing what's actually happened here, but then like he has this very confused look on his face, and Stefan gets it. He's like, Hubert, you silly goose." Everyone else is happy about it. Hubert's like very slow to realize what's happening. It's pretty funny.
yeah,
So,
and then they
so
have
they start
a little
dancing a
waltz
waltz.
scene,
Yeah.
and the fairies are back on their bullshit, arguing, quibbling over whether or not blue or pink should be the dress color.
Oh, right before that, Fauna is crying, and Flora's like, "What's the matter, dear?" And she's like, "Oh, I just love happy endings." It's a nice little moment.
Yeah,
And then they start arguing about whether it should be blue or pink. And so as they're dancing in front of everyone, they're shooting their little spell beams at it to change the color back and
yep.
forth.
A woman's paradise has been created. They can argue about shit with no consequences.
I love it. It's such a great little bit of like comedy to sort of like cut the sort of sweetness of this. You know what I mean? Just to like it has such a nice tonal balance, this ending. Like where
Yeah,
it's going back and forth between the blue and the pink, and then it sort of dissolves from them in the grand hall to them
and it
continuing to
keeps.
dance,
I
and now
love
they're
how
in the
it keeps
clouds.
going as like the book is closing too, right? Where like every
Yes.
time she turns, the dress is a different color. It's
Hmm.
yeah, it's fun, man. I like that a lot.
It's really nice. And then we zoom out from the illustration, and it's still turning pink and blue. And we do the opposite of what we did in the very beginning, where we backtrack and the choir is singing this big, glorious final cadence, and the horns are blaring their big fanfare. But we did it. The end.
Oh, we
Happy
also
ending.
they are dancing on clouds.
I said
Yeah.
that.
Oh, sorry, I missed that when I missed you saying that.
Yes.
Yeah,
We,
they're
we,
dancing
we
on
it
clouds, dancing in
dissolves
heaven.
from the hall into them dancing in the clouds. It's beautiful, and the music is soaring. comes to this big final conclusion, and then it's just over because that's how old movies were. God damn it, it's so good.
It's really
I
good, man.
love this ending, man. Fantastic. Very like emotionally satisfying and cathartic and beautiful. Oh, the music and everything. Oh man, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, brother. That's gonna be a hell yeah from me. I like this movie a lot. There's
Yep.
so much to love about this movie, I would say, especially with the story. I think it's incredible. There's so many great. It's got something for everybody, you know. It's got boy shit of like a prince fighting a dragon. It
With a
has,
banging looking sword and a shield. Yeah. It's
yeah,
got,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's got stuff for the girls and the princesses and true love and all that sort of stuff. It's got like funny comedy with the three old ladies bickering with each other. It's got cutesy animal shit doing cutesy animal things. The music's incredible. The animation is really solid. I mean, like, you know, for my quibbling about some of the backgrounds looking a little flat, like most of this movie looks absolutely stunning, especially compared to anything nowadays. You know, it might
Yeah.
not be the best looking of the classic Disney animated movies, but it looks way better than anything that's coming out these
The
days.
highs in this one are high. Like it is
Oh man, they're
really
high.
great. Yeah, the Maleficent dragon stuff. It's all just. It looks amazing. It's spectacular. One of the most memorable of the Disney songs. I agree. The Once Upon
Hmm.
a Dream is a real. It's a real hit, man. It's a good
Oh
one.
yeah, and the way it comes back later in the movie, it's so good, so good. I I love this movie. This movie's great. I don't think I really saw this one all that much when I was a kid. I saw it at least once. I remembered the dragon. You know, I remembered him fighting the dragon. That was the one bit
Yeah,
that
that
really
was the
stuck
big
with
thing
me.
that I remembered too. You know, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Good shit. Great story. Great, like impeccable performances all around from the cast and, you know, the vocal performers and the musicians and all that sort of stuff. The animators doing a fucking stellar job on all these character designs. And like, it's just so rich, you know, the sort of visual language of these classic movies. I miss it. I miss it. This is the shit. This is why I miss like classic Disney 2D animated movies. They're so, ah, God, they're amazing to look at, and the stories are very like affirming and beautiful. And it's just like that ending, just like the way the music swells and like we're zooming out of the storybook and all the choir is going. It's just, oh, it's great.
yeah.
It's awe-inspiring stuff. I love it. Now, unless you had any other things to mention about this movie specifically, shall we see how it compares
I have your
in our
rankings up
rankings?
already.
Oh my goodness.
Look at
There
me.
they are.
Look at me on top of everything.
Okay. Let me think, for example. I mean, for a moment.
Let me think, for
Pinocchio.
example.
Let me think for once in my life. Pinocchio is Pinocchio is still number one for me. I love
Okay.
Pinocchio. Um, God, this is tough. I still don't know whether I like Snow White or Cinderella better. They're basically tied for me. So I think I've been thinking about it in advance of this stream, and I think I'm going to give the slight edge to Cinderella still
Okay.
over Snow White. And I think, God, this is tough, man. Okay, so where does I think everything else about the order is going to stay the same. I do think Sleeping Beauty. I think I like it a little bit more than Lady and the Tramp.
Okay. So we're
It's
going.
it's it's somewhere. It's either number. I think okay. For now, I'm going to put it after Snow White, above Lady and the Tramp. It
Okay.
ends so strong. It makes up for some things in the beginning, which maybe quite aren't as strong. I mean, I still really like it, but God, it has such a strong ending. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I am going to see subjectively. There are things in Sleeping Beauty I like more than Cinderella because it's got the defeating the dragon stuff and the
Yeah.
the shield of virtue and the sword of truth. Uh, Cinderella's just more concerned with, but Cinderella's really nice too in terms of like the virtues of like keeping like staying virtuous and keeping your dignity in like the lowest of situations and like earning you know what I mean, like
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
earning the return she gets. There's a lot to love about that too, and like I love all the stuff with the little mice. um yeah, fuck it, this is my order for now.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with
Sleeping Beauty
this.
comes in at number 4. Comes in hot at number 4.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, a very high 4.
Yeah. All right. Let me get mine up here. All right. Ooh. This is tough. This is a tough one. Because symbolically, overall, I think symbolically overall it's more coherent than Peter Pan. I think its story and character work better for me than Peter Pan. The music the music is also the music's also really good, but there's no racist banger about
About the Indians.
So I don't know. That's kind of what's this is tough. I think I still prefer Lady and the Tramp overall.
Okay.
But the ending in this one is really good. I mean,
I think the ending. See, part of I think the ending is better. The
yeah,
ending of Sleeping Beauty is better than the ending of Lady and the Tramp, which is also
yeah,
good. But
I
like we
think
talked
that's
about it
true.
last week, it's a little rushed, and you want a little bit more of the Tramp deciding to choose the sort of domestic family lifestyle. It's just sort of implied, and it would have been nice to see some of it. I don't get any of those sort of feelings about this ending. This ending is like as good as Snow White's ending, where like we see the castle in the heavens and the music is soaring and all that. Oh, it's so fucking good. Anyway, this is your time. Go ahead.
I think this is going number 1. I think this is
going number 1.
This is
Oh,
going number
shit,
1,
dog.
man. This is pretty great. I think yeah, I'm gonna give I think this has been a real good run for them, for me,
Yeah, yeah, you're a Silver Age boy.
Every single one of these movies has just been like, it's Trump. The next one is trumping the next, right? Like for Peter Pan taking one, then Lady. Yeah, this is going up there because overall, I really like this kind of story. I really like, knights and dragons and everything, and I think this is probably the best executed of all of those that Disney's done for me. I mean, like, I really like Snow White and Cinderella. I really like them. But yeah, I'm gonna put this at number 1. I think this is probably my
Yeah, I'm very tempted to put it above Snow White and Cinderella, just because I think it's tricky. It's tricky. I think in terms of the story for the titular character, I think Cinderella is the strongest, then Snow White, then Sleeping Beauty. I think overall as a movie, I'm tempted to put Sleeping Beauty slightly higher for story reasons, though I think Cinderella and Snow White are more like beautiful visually in terms of the animation style for me. God, it's tricky. These are all so
they're all
unbelievably
really
good.
Yeah,
These are all
except
masterpieces.
Fantasia.
Except Fantasia. Fuck Fantasia.
Fuck Fantasia. The obligatory fuck Fantasia. Except that one bit with Mickey Mouse and the brooms. That is goated. But everything else can fuck off. Well, Mickey Mouse and the Black Centaur that they cut out of Disney Plus. You cowards.
God, I am.
But yeah, no, this is.
If I have more time to think about it, we might find the next one we talk about that I've changed my ranking slightly and put Sleeping Beauty higher. That's the only change I would make because it's really good. It's it's so likable,
I really like the way I really like the art style for Sleeping Beauty, right? Like the medieval tapestry art style, just like something about it really appeals to me, and the fact that they emulated that so well for this one, right? I just there's something about that really appeals to me for this kind of story. I don't know, man. I love it. I really like it.
It's a it does such an admirable job adapting the fairy tale and like keeping its fairy tale-ness, but making it into a more conventional Hollywood story.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Where like there's a consistent
I
dramatic
think.
through line throughout the whole thing. Because a lot of old fairy tales, they sort of meander a bit. You
Yeah,
know, like this has been refined in a very sort of American Hollywood movie style while keeping a lot of what made the fairy tale so strong in the first place. And yeah, and godly, it's fucking great. So, ooh, I'm so tempted to put it, and I'm going to leave my list where it is. I'm going to
okay,
trust my gut. I'm going to leave it where it is.
that's fair enough. Yeah, I think I agree with Kyle. Sleeping Beauty builds a lot on what they did with Snow White and Cinderella, and they rounded out
Especially
very
Snow
well.
White, I would say.
Yeah, especially with that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. But yeah.
All right. I have decided that I need you to amend my ranking slightly.
Okay. Oh, all right. Hold on. Get them up.
And I need you to put Sleeping Beauty above Snow White but below Cinderella.
Oh, okay. So Sleeping Beauty coming in at number 3.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to come in at number 3. No disrespect to Snow White.
All right.
You're the OG, and we wouldn't be here without you.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Good on you, Rachel Ziegler. A round of applause for Rachel Ziegler.
You know what's funny is that because I feel like a lot of modern Disney writers and execs would have the really dumb, short-sighted critiques of Sleeping Beauty that they do, that like they probably won't touch that one, at least for a little while.
Well, they
You know what I
already
mean?
have. They did
Oh,
Maleficent.
did they? Oh, Maleficent. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
they wouldn't do Sleeping Beauty again, but worse probably, because they did Maleficent and that was their
I mean,
length.
that is Sleeping Beauty, but worse. So,
No, you're right. You're right. It feels more removed though, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
and I think the reason that it feels more removed is because it was before everybody started paying attention to it. Like it
Yeah, it was early on that wave. That
yeah,
2014, like that's the beginning of the wave. That's the sort of like woke explosion. That's when it started, especially in college campuses. Like that's it was early. It was early on that wave. Um, yeah, great
yeah.
movie. Great movie. What's next? What's next on the docket? What's the next one in the
Oh,
arc?
the next Disney movie in the arc. Let me make sure.
Yes.
Okay, let's find out. Oh boy,
Is it 101
it's
Dalmatians?
101 Dalmatians.
I love that one.
I love
Someone
that
mentioned
movie so much.
that's a very charming movie. Someone earlier said that like eventually that he predicts that Lion King will sweep. There's a strong
There's
chance
a
Lion King
really
will sweep.
strong chance that's gonna. Yeah, there's a
That's
really
one of my
strong
favorite
chance.
movies of all time. So like that could easily sweep. But maybe after rewatching a lot of these classic movies, I'll actually feel that there's something in the animation style lost. You know, but like it'd be hard to top the Lion King for me. I think
Yeah.
that might be number one. We'll see. We'll see as
Who's
we revisit some of
Kebo
these other ones.
wants to know, is he a pleb for thinking Emperor's New Groove and Lilo and Stitch are the best? I haven't seen Emperor's New Groove for a little while. I think that one's a lot of fun. I still have I like
It is a
that.
lot of fun. I don't think it stands up
I
to some
watched
of these other
Lilo and
ones.
Stitch again recently because despite my intention to avoid everything until, we got to it in this coverage, I was feeling the vibe for Lilo and Stitch. That's a really fucking good movie.
It
That's a
is.
really good. I don't know that I would call it the best, but it's really good.
Yeah,
Very,
it's up there.
yeah. And yeah, so I don't think you could be considered wrong for vibing with that
Yeah,
one the
that's not a
hardest.
wrong
Yeah, that's
answer.
not a
Like
wrong answer. That's a really
Bambi
good
and
movie.
Fantasia are wrong answers. Lilo and Stitch is
Yeah, Bambi
perfectly.
and Fantasia are incorrect, factually incorrect. Others that might be considered factually incorrect, Brother Bear, that one for sure. You're wrong if you pick that one. Wreck-It Ralph. You're wrong for that one too. I know that one's not 2D animated, but it's a, Disney animated feature. You're wrong if you pick that one as the best. Uh, other than that, though, you're kind of it's kind of up in the air a little bit on some of these. Like I it's been so long since I've seen The Sword and the Stone that I don't even remember it. But that's going to be after 101 Dalmatians, and I wouldn't be surprised to find that that one is also very good. Like also worthy of being up there in the in the annals of Disney history. So.
Chicken Little sweep.
Chicken Littles. I oh my god, dude. I have a really weird relationship with that movie because when I was a kid, I had you remember those books that you could get that had like little like kids books that had buttons on the side, and when you pushed the buttons, they would make noise like that went along.
Yeah, vaguely, sure. Yeah.
The Chicken Little one, the noise that Chicken Little made when you pushed the button when he said the sky was falling, to this day, when I hear the name Chicken Little, it makes me feel sick to think of the noise that played. Like physically ill. And I don't remember what the noise was. All I know is that that's the reason why I cannot stand to think about watching that movie. The movie doesn't even incorporate the noise.
Don't worry, we won't make you watch it, Hugh. You don't have to watch it. It's okay. No one's gonna force you to watch Chicken Little. You can rest easy.
Kevo says, "I'll take Chicken Little over Brother Bear." You know what? Maybe. I don't. Yeah, maybe. Phil Collins was not the move. Is all I'm gonna say. Like Tarzan was an anomaly. There was a moment there when they were like, "Oh, we don't need Randy Newman anymore for any of this shit. We don't need we've got Phil Collins. We got Phil Collins signed." And then he dropped Brother Bear. And oh boy,
I haven't seen Brother Bear.
Well, you're gonna. That is on the list. Yeah, they got rid of whoever was writing the music for, or they really like bet on Phil Collins being the next big guy because Elton John did a lot of the music for The Lion King, and they were like, oh yeah, Phil Collins, basically the same. No, no, he is not.
I do really like the music for Tarzan. So
yeah, yeah, it's an anomaly because let me tell you, the Brother Bear stuff is not great. There's one good one. Sure. There's one banger of a song.
Isn't Joaquin Phoenix in Brother Bear?
Yes, he is.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm excited for 101 Dalmatians. That's one that I don't know if it'll be I don't know if it'll end up being in like the top of my list, but I watched that one a lot when I was a kid. I don't know why. I think it was like on at daycare a lot because I would, I like go to daycare after school before.
We're getting into the jazzy Disney stuff.
Was that a jazzy score?
Oh, it's got a jazzy score. Yeah, the Cruella de Vil song is so jazzy.
Oh, true. It does. Yeah, we're entering Disney's jazz era.
Yeah, because then we get to Louis Prima and the Jungle Book.
Hell yeah!
Fuck yeah, man! I'm so excited.
That's my dad's favorite. That was my dad's favorite movie when he was a kid, and probably to this day is his favorite movie. He likes the jazzy stuff. So many good ones coming up. This list is going to get really, really. It's already really, really difficult trying to rank these. I'm agonizing over these top 5 because they're just all so fucking good.
Yeah,
it's going to get even tighter. It's going to be really difficult.
I just hid the rankings for a second and caught like the glimpse of everything, and I'm more convinced that I made the right choice. I mean, like that is just a gorgeous, gorgeous background. The design is incredible.
I think because of the art style of this movie being a little like flat, like it makes for really good wallpapers. Yeah, you know what I mean? It looks really good in still shots and screenshots. Not that it doesn't look good in motion, but I feel like it kind of looks best just looking at it like a painting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, a lot of these backgrounds they're really pretty. They're very detailed. They're very vibrant and colorful. It's great. It's good shit. God, what a movie! What a movie! It's nice to watch good things.
Yeah, man. It's nice to talk about and watch good stuff.
Hell yeah, dog.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I have anything else to say about Sleeping Beauty. It's good. It's quite good even. It's great even.
Yeah, I would say great.
Masterpiece level.
Yeah.
Really, really solid
They're
stuff.
really hitting bangers every
Cooking
time
with
for me.
gas.
They've
Yeah.
got me. They've got me on every level. Yeah, Jay does a great job showing why Disney grew into the juggernaut that it became. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, God, like, I mean, just looking at that list, like, there's like, it's only been a little over 20 years for Disney theatrical releases at this point, but they already have like 5 absolutely stellar, like almost masterpiece level movies, and then like 3 or 4 other like really solid entries. You know what I mean? Like Fantasia was a misstep. Bambi is like, compared to a lot of things released today, Bambi's like fine. It's pretty good even. Like,
yeah.
but like, God, what a run. And we're not even close to done. That's, oh man.
No, we're not. Yeah, we haven't even. I mean, we haven't even got. We're not breaking into like Aladdin or the Lion
Yeah.
King or any of that shit yet. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
I'm excited for the Aristocats too,
I'm so
especially for
excited
the
for the
music.
Aristocats, Robin Hood. It's been so long since I watched Robin Hood. I'm so ready to check that one out.
Well, unless you had anything else to share with the class, Hugh, I think
Nope,
maybe
I
we'll
think I'm all set.
wrap it up. Thank you all for joining us on the Disney arc as we continue to move through these incredible movies. Don't know what we'll be talking about next week yet. We'll see if actually there are a couple movies coming out this week that I will actually want to see in the theater, which
Oh, which
is
ones?
kind of I want to see Weapons. Weapons is the new horror film from the Whitest Kids You Know guy who also did Barbarian.
Oh, okay.
Um, it looks star-studded, and I actually worked one day on it just as a PA, but I was on some second unit car driving stunts stuff for Weapons, so I'm curious to check it out for that reason as well. Um, I'll probably see it fairly early in time to tell you whether it's worth talking about on Sunday. So maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I haven't seen Barbarian. Uh, so that'd be kind of fun.
hmm.
Check that out. Benedict Wong. Okay, shit. Josh Brolin.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in Weapons. I've heard it described as like a horror Magnolia, as in like there's a whole bunch of different characters, all with like
Interesting.
interesting intersecting lives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it's going to be, but I hope it's good
All right.
because I would
People are
like.
asking about Jaws in the comments. All right. Here's the thing about Jaws. Jaws is doing a re-release
In
for
August.
in like this month for its for its anniversary. I have tickets to see it on August 30th. So we will probably talk about Jaws on the 31st of August. Because
Yes.
I really I could watch it and talk about it and then go see it, but I would love to be able to bring the theater experience to the stream. So we're
Oh
probably
yeah.
going to save it till the end of the month.
That's when
And
we'll do
yeah,
it. That's our guarantee. You take that to the bank.
yeah,
That's when
absolutely.
we'll talk about Jaws because Hubert's going to see it in the theater. I might try and see it in the theater too.
It's going to
See
be
if
at the
there's.
Alamo if you have one. I don't know if you have one in Atlanta,
We
but
do not have any Alamos down here, as far as I'm aware. But
it's
let's
going to
see.
be fucking awesome. It's the whole movie party. They got like custom cocktails and menu items and everything. They got all kinds of stuff. I'm so excited to go and see that. So, yeah. End of the
Yes,
month,
that's when.
we will be covering Jaws.
Jaws.
Yeah, we'll have they probably have a couple of weeks here or between our Disney project stuff, but we'll get to 101 Dalmatians soon.
In due time, because it's not like there's a lot of great movies coming out.
Yeah, that's for
Got them.
sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think you can expect us to do a lot more of talking about older films in the near future because, man, it's bleak out there in the theaters. So, yeah, that's what you can look forward to on this stream. Sundays going forward in the future. I'll
A lot of older
announce on
movies, yeah.
Twitter what we're talking about next week, whether it's 101 Dalmatians or whether it's something else. So you have time to check it out. Until next time, thank you very much for all the fine comments in the chat, especially the super chats. We're very appreciative of those. Hope you all have a fine week, and we'll see you next time.
Wasserman,
Goodbye,
you can
friend.
go ahead and reread that Jaws book if you want. That sounds pretty cool.
Reread that Jaws book.
I've never read it, so that would be, and I don't know that I have plans to do so at the moment. But you know what? Maybe I will. Maybe I will feel like it.
Topaz Dude really quick asks, would you pick 1940s or 50s Disney? Well, based on our rankings,
right now, I'm going 1950s. Yeah. You're a little bit more split.
But in general, like a lot of my favorite ones were in the 50s. I mean, if I'm just picking the decade that had the most good Disney movies in it, I probably have to pick the 50s, even though Pinocchio is my favorite.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, we will see you guys next week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Adios.